never change.
All right, I'll call to order the Tuesday, October 22nd, regular meeting of Dayton City Council. Stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We need a motion and a second for the agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Dave,
I'll second.
Matt. Discussion? We had an item S.
Yes, sorry. Mayor, members of council, we have item S that needs to be added. I did send that out in an email about an hour or two ago. It's related to well number 4 rehab, approval of that rehab work to be done.
And then can we move item F out of consent and just have a separate vote on it, please?
Okay, item F is out. And I would like either for P to go in front of L or L to go after P. I'll leave that up to,
I would recommend maybe L after P. Does
Okay.
that work?
works for me.
Okay.
Okay, with those amendments, any other changes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Agenda passed 5-0. Then we have consent. I need a motion and a second.
A motion.
I'll second.
Discussion? Go ahead.
I have a couple. Item B, payment for claims. We have a $57,000-ish bill from CS McCrossin. And I guess my question is not so much what is that about, but is there any kind of timeline on when that project closes out?
Councilmember Fashett, I believe that's one of the last payments, so it was related to some landscaping work that we needed to have done and verified. We had some troubles back and forth with them and arguments back and forth about completing that landscape work, and they finally did agree to do it without charging us extra dollars, so that was a win. But that is basically the last bit of the work. The rest of the dollars are left remaining on the project, only retainage, which is our 1% dollars that we hold back to make sure the project gets completed. So we would anticipate those to be early next year or early next spring at the latest.
Okay.
This is like the last bits of projects that we had to make sure they got all completed, which is like the landscaping and so on and so forth. But it is essentially mostly done.
Yeah, well, it seems like it's been open a couple of years now.
Yeah.
At some point, we ought to shut the door on it.
We do hold dollars back for landscaping things only because we have a 2-year window on those and we want to make sure they stick. If something does go wrong or something goes bad, then we have a new 2-year window open, so that's what leaves some dollars left over. And we have to eventually just say, when are we going to assume liability for the rest of the items on that?
And when do we, I would assume we've already done this, but the landscaping required versus what they did?
Yep, that's already been checked off through Stantec.
Okay.
It's one of their items that they do is they have a landscape architect or individual on their team and go through each one and make sure that every single circle on the thing is there. Which I do not want that job.
Thank you.
Yep.
I also had a question on item C, and that relates to the Three Rivers land purchase. And
Yep.
I'm wondering if we have any indication on how and when these properties will be used.
So there's 2 properties on approval tonight. One of them is on the north side of town, and that will be utilized for the West Mississippi Regional Trail, from what my understanding is. The other property on the south side of town, which will be used for the Diamond Lake Trail, long term. I don't know exactly when that process will begin. I think it takes years to get enough regional significance in order for them to put the project forward, but I believe the land will turn back to any of the other properties that we have in town that have been purchased by Three Rivers. It'll go back to natural grasslands or natural landscaping until that project comes of regional significance. So I'm not sure when that timeline is. I'd have to defer to Three Rivers in order to answer that question.
Okay. The reason I'm asking it is that we are invested in these properties as well. We are permanently giving up about $15,000 a year of tax revenue just on these two properties, and there's been a series of these, and I'll just say I don't feel like we're communicated with well on what the timeline and the plans are for these things. And so we're not an uninterested party.
Noted.
I just want us to, well, I don't know. I guess that's my point, is that we are investing this in the way of lost revenue. And hopefully, it does ultimately benefit the community. I have one other item. H relates to Zachary Villa's Dayton letter of credit release, and it does take that letter of credit down to 0. But the narrative says that there are still some final landscape items that need to be completed, and I'm wondering what our assurance is or how we assure that those things get done when we're not holding anything.
Yeah, unfortunately, Jason's not here to answer the question, so I'm going to do my best here. But I believe the landscape items that are left over are so minute in magnitude that it doesn't make sense to hold on any dollars at this point. And we were holding on to dollars in the letter of credit for a street light that hadn't been done and some fire hydrant work I think that needed to be done, or something like that. But I'll defer to Marty.
There was 2 street lights that were outstanding that are in place now, and there was some drainage swale work and some seeding of the pond. The drainage swale work has been completed. The HOA had a hand in who was dealing with that, and it was done to their satisfaction. And the stormwater pond has been seeded in the last few weeks. So all the work on that project is actually complete.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's all I have.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of consent, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Consent carries 5-0. Open forum. Do we have anybody?
Mayor, we have item F.
Oh,
Those are moved from
sorry,
consent agenda.
yep. All right, item F, I need a motion and a second.
I'll motion. I'll second.
Okay, Travis, any discussion?
Thank you, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0.
I
Did you abstain
abstained.
yet?
Yep, sorry.
All right, 4-0. Now we have open forum. Is anybody here for, come on forward. Oh,
We're on our way out.
oh, fine.
Just that fast.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Is anybody online?
So we do, if you have anything for open forum, if you want to use the raise your hand function.
Nobody? All right. Staff consultant, council updates, Zach?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor, members of council. Sorry, I'm still on, unfortunately, sometimes vacation mode here, so trying to get caught back up. Let me pull it up. I have a couple updates for you tonight. All right, a couple updates for you tonight. One of them is an update for our federal grant. We received a letter last week while I was out that SHPO has agreed to allow some mitigation factors to fulfill their requirements for their portion of the environmental review. This is good news for us. That's the best news we could have received. So they have agreed to that. We signed paperwork yesterday to have a memorandum of agreement that says that we're on the same page. We have 1 year to complete those items. So you'll see those in subsequent months and or maybe next year. We have submitted the documentation to the Federal Historical Preservation Office, also known as ACHP, and they have a 15-day window for final acceptance. There's no reason they shouldn't accept it, so we're hoping it happens before the 15-day window. But after that 15-day window is fulfilled, we will then have a 30-day window for the EAW to be posted. After that 30-day window has been posted, we have to accept the EAW as the city, and we can then present and begin work again on the project. So. This is all good news. However, it is a few months delayed, unfortunately. So, good news, but we still get the $4 million worth of funding. So that is a huge win for us.
So when do you predict we'll start back up work, and what do you expect to be the approximate finish date on that?
So when we originally had planned for the delay, we had anticipated it to be a May end of May operational for the wellhead treatment plant, and that was as of September 1 start for the project. We are now going to be at I'm going to say middle of December to be advantageous for that start of that project, which puts us back about 3.5 months. So instead of the end of May, we'd be pushing end of August,
Yep.
September.
Sounded like it.
Unfortunately, it will not be when we wanted to, which is before the summer season, but I think it's more important that we got the $4 million for the funding than it would be to use $4 million of revenue. But roughly, I would say September of next year would be my rough guess. Marty, additional thoughts?
Yeah, I think that that's a fair guess, but obviously it depends on when we can get them back on site and what their commitments are that they've taken on in between the two projects. The good news is that the pressure vessels are still in production, so we haven't lost any time on that, which would have been a big lead time for us to catch up on. So that's the good news.
Thanks.
Second update I have, an update on our Housing First case. I got an email last week with a letter from the U.S. Supreme Court denying the case to be appealed by the U.S. Supreme Court that was previously denied by the Minnesota Supreme Court. That is, again, the best news we could have received based on the Housing First case. So I know that there's some relief items that still need to be cleaned up by the district court. I did ask our attorneys to try to provide an update. I'm not real good with legal jargon, and there was a lot of it in there. And that's why I'm not an attorney, but I'm not sure if Amy can maybe touch base on it when she gets back to her item, but did want to let that know to the council that we are, again, best news as possible. And finally, just a reminder to get those pumpkin pledges in for the pumpkin trail. It is next Tuesday already, so it is coming quickly, but we did receive a few of them, I know, and I don't know how the trailer's doing over there at Public Works, but hopefully it's getting full. But
I don't know how many pledges that we've got, but I don't think it's nearly enough at the moment.
more pumpkin pledges. That's all I have. Thank you.
Amy?
So we'll need to schedule a canvas meeting in our window that we're giving. The 11-12 council meeting aligns. Are we all fine doing the canvas during that meeting?
I am.
And then just a reminder that we are here for extended hours for voting, which is taking place all the way up until the day before Election Day, which is November 5th. You would go to your polling locations. Anytime before that, for Dayton residents, they would come here to City Hall. And right now it is where you can come in, receive a ballot, and stick it directly into the ballot counter machine. And we have quite a few people utilizing that, so that's good to see. We'll be here Saturday from 9 to 3. Again, on the 2nd from 9 to 3, and then Sunday the 3rd from 9 to 3. And then additional hours on the 29th until 7 p.m. That's all I have.
Marty?
Mayor and Council, I have a couple of items. Street sweeping is scheduled for the first week of November. We've delayed it so we can get the maximum amount of leaves as we can. Just a general note on the old public works shop cleanup. We've been working on the boneyard behind the existing the new public works shop to create an extension to the existing boneyard. That work will be completed in the next 2 weeks with a convit surface. We are working on getting the barrels and the fuel oils at the old shop cleaned up. We've got one quote in. We're working on a quote from a second vendor currently. They sent some information that needs to be reviewed. So that's where we're at with that.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. A little over a week ago, the department certified 13 firefighters in our fire apparatus operator class. So currently all drivers within the fire department are certified to operate all our apparatus, which is a huge success. The only 4 that are not are just our new people, so that's a huge success for us.
Evening, Mayor, members of the council. We have 2 officers going through crisis intervention training currently. That leaves 3 officers left to be certified in it, which will happen next year. We sent Sergeant Grimsby to hostage negotiator class, so we have 4 hostage negotiators within our department currently. We are also doing our annual coat drive and Toys for Tot drive from November, or starting now through December 1st. We'll have a bin at the PD and a bin at City Hall for any gently used or new coats and Toys for Tots.
Amy?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. It's been a while since I've been here. I really don't have anything to report, but if you do have questions, Zach actually did a really good job explaining the Housing First situation. So if you have questions about it, I'm happy to try to answer them. Obviously, it's not my case. I haven't been representing the city on that, but I can generally understand the legal jargon. So, but if you don't have any questions, then I don't have anything to report.
I have a question.
Okay.
Did the Supreme Court deny their case or deny hearing
Standing?
their case?
Oh,
It was simply a very short order where the court said that they deny review, which is denying the case. They're not going to hear the case. So that is just, it's usually a very perfunctory process. You know, they submitted what's called a petition for certiorari, and the petition was denied. So the court said, nope, not going to hear it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
so other than,
That sends it back to the
District court.
state district court.
right,
To resolve the last kind of lingering issue they asked for injunctive relief, but the things that they asked to have injunctive relief about have already been resolved and disposed of.
Right.
So there's really nothing,
so this
there's
is,
no injunction to issue. So
Okay.
Monty Mills from Green Espel has submitted a letter to the district court, kind of pointing that out and saying, we're happy to brief it if you want us to, and I think they're just waiting for a response to that letter from the court here in Hennepin County.
okay. Scott?
The only thing I really have is, as we are all aware, the striping job over there on River Road in Pineview. I did send Kevin Anderson an email about it. It surprises me they did the painting the way they did, and he has not responded back to me, of course, but I'm hoping we get some sort of resolution on how they did that.
You mean how, or,
Well, to me, they cut off the right turn lanes by that solid white line, and there's enough room, in my opinion, to put that solid white line right on the edge so that people, instead of having it a solid white line, they should have it right on the edge of the road, the solid line, and to me, there's still enough room for some sort of a right-handed turn lane there on both directions.
so I had a resident call me and she said she had actually talked to somebody down there in Public Works, and they surprisingly told her just use the shoulder as a turn lane, which I believe is illegal.
I wouldn't recommend that.
But the thing is the way they did that is we lost those turn lanes.
Yeah.
And I understand what they were looking to do,
Yeah.
but without those turn lanes, now you're blocking traffic. If you're taking
Yep.
a right turn, I mean, you're not walking along, but you're slowing it. I don't know. It just seemed kind of odd.
There was the previous line striping job had no dedicated left turn.
Yes.
And
Right,
so
right.
the county views a no dedicated left turn as more dangerous than having a bypass right lane.
Yeah.
So that's just based on their models that they use.
Right.
Yeah, and I can see
Doesn't
some of
mean that it's right, wrong,
Right
or
or right,
indifferent,
yeah.
but it just their models. They would rather have a dedicated left turn than a bypass right turn.
Yeah, it's just that the traffic, I don't, yeah.
I think
and the
that
fact that
I
it
think
took,
that intersection is maybe the only one that is of like major difference because of the sight lines related to
Yeah.
that specific intersection.
Yeah.
And the ability to go over into traffic versus having to creep out and whatever else. But
I was surprised they didn't put up signage. I know they took a while to paint it, but to put up signage to show how the lanes were going to be used going forward, like they could have done a better job of that up front to say.
well, and taking
I think
2
that's-
weeks to
To paint
paint
it,
it.
that's my point.
And you left lanes there that almost set up a head-on.
Yep.
Well, they did
So,
overnight because it got
yeah.
really confusing. And that's
It-
when me
yeah,
and
it
you were
was
like,
weird.
yeah, that yellow
Yeah.
line made it weird. But what I get is, I get why they did what they did because I've lived on that corner for years, and everybody would always use that lane, that turn lane, as the bypass lane, as somebody was blocking traffic to go left. But to your point, I think you're saying they see that as more of the safer route, which 100% I get. The risk is still there, whether it's a turn lane or not, because
Correct.
people are still
Yeah.
using it.
yes.
I don't know what the ultimate fix would have been. I think that comes in 2028.
Yeah, so the ultimate fix, we have talked with them at length, asking them to extend, not making it a roundabout, because that would increase the dollars on that project significantly, and then we would have to be involved in the project, but we would not be involved in the project if in 2028 they're able to extend those lanes or the drive lanes slightly
widen it
to
a
be
little
able
bit?
to have a right, a through, and
Yeah,
a
it wouldn't
left
take
turn.
much.
And it wouldn't take much,
Yeah.
yeah. So we have talked with the county with that, and they have verbally agreed that that would be something they would be able to do,
Sure.
but it won't be happening until
The other
2028.
update.
You got it.
Yeah,
That is correct.
okay.
Yeah, I think, for me, the part that's concerning is that they didn't communicate any of it.
Yep.
You know,
Agreed.
because, I mean, we put up a stop sign, we have to put up
Right,
signs that say
right.
change of, you know, intersection ahead or something, and I don't know that that would have cost them anything to do, but it might have cut down on some of the confusion,
Or the feedback.
or that.
Well, hopefully, I mean, where North Diamond hits the river road, that I would think that would improve that area. That's a nasty intersection, so.
That will be
Having a
improved in
dedicated left Instead of a bypass, yeah.
2029 or whatever their date is, doing 2028, I can't remember what year. We'll go over it tonight in the pavement management plan.
There you go. That's all I got, I think.
Did you want to talk about Saturday?
Oh, it's, yeah, we'll see what happens. That's not a big deal. I just got a little pumpkin thing going on Saturday at my office, but we'll see what happens. Having a hard time getting the community engaged.
All right, Travis?
Yeah.
So the new, I don't know if you want to call it tar or sealant that they're putting down on the loose rock is raising some hackles. Because what it's doing is it's sticking to things and it's tracking up into people's garage and blah, blah, blah. And here's the other thing I didn't even think of. I mean, I've seen this and I kind of like it, except if you're a skateboarder or a skater, that pretty much ruins the experience.
And that's one of the things that we wanted to try when we chose those roads, because
Yeah.
they were the main arteries, and we didn't think that people would be really skateboarding on those particular streets. So we wanted to see how it would go in those areas first. But the stickiness thing, I've had several complaints about that.
Yeah.
And I think that some of it was to do with we should have had another street sweeping on that. We paid for 2, I believe, and I did get them out to do a third one to eliminate some of that excess rock that was on the surface.
Well, and you have one scheduled for the leaves and whatnot, right? So you have one scheduled for.
Got another one coming, right?
Yeah, that will be the 4th one around that project. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you guys are keeping track of all the pluses and minuses, but I mean, it
Well, the real plus or minus won't come in for a couple of years
for
until you see how it holds up.
Yeah.
6, 7 years.
I mean, right now, it looks nice.
It does look good,
Yeah.
but
You know, people should, we
whether
don't need
it's,
skateboarders down Zanzibar anyway, really.
it's not on Zanzibar. I mean,
No, I
it's
know.
some of these community
Yeah, we did
development roads.
choose 2 smaller developments to do it within those roads, so that's my guess where you're hearing this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the only reason is because those were smaller developments and not doing it on a large scale development. Not trying to pick on those smaller ones.
And there's sidewalks in those places too.
That's correct.
Can't win for losing.
that's all I got. Dave?
Nothing from me.
Matt?
Just a reminder, it's 2 weeks to Election Day today. I want to wish Dennis and the other city council candidates the best of luck, so we won't see anyone before then. And then just to confirm, we have a meeting next Tuesday at 7 a.m.?
That is correct, yep,
Okay.
that is a special council meeting. Yeah, as a reminder to mayor and council, that special council meeting is just for the one item related to the MIF and JCF requests for dollars from grants that have not doing anything with the city, we just have to administer them for the state's manufacturing moving into the Cubes building for half of that building. So that'll be next Tuesday at 7 a.m.
I have to set an alarm.
7 a.m.
Man.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. All right. On to council business. Public hearing J.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Tonight, we are looking for the approval of unpaid utilities to be assessed to properties in both Hennepin and Wright County. This is required to be a public hearing, so I don't know if you want to have the public hearing first or after, it does not matter, but we do need approval of
Give
the
your-
resolution.
Your spiel and I can open the public meeting.
I don't have much of a spiel besides we have utilities and I think we've had 5 payments of utility bills since those delinquent letters went out.
That surprises me. It just shocks
It always
me.
does every year. This list looks a little bit longer than it has in the past, or actually a lot longer. Is that the case, or is that not the case?
So historically, we've always done this later on in the process. We typically did it a month from now, which I will say that we may or may not have chose to do. Met some timelines that we shouldn't have, but that's why it's longer than what you're normally used to seeing, is because typically people come in and pay at the last.
People still have until November
Yeah,
15th
still have
to
no-
come in and pay
Correct.
before they can no longer come off this list.
That is correct. So there will be people that come in and pay at the last minute.
There was a charge in there for over $12,000, and I feel like when we did this last year, there was a charge for a large amount. Was it the same?
It's the same address, yeah.
And did they pay the last one or just get assessed against?
Yep, got assessed.
Yep.
Some people choose to do that
We
every-
did have contact with this individual.
Okay.
Since this whole process has come about, after multiple times of letters and emails and phone calls, and they finally we were able to get a hold of them, and we were able to fix their problem. It was a water softener stuck open 24/7.
So it's got to be something because
Yes, that's correct. So,
We've got to get these meters, Marty. We
so
have,
we
Just wash
we reached out for over
Yeah.
2 years with, and we have all
Yeah.
of the letters and emails and
Well,
phone calls.
I
Thanks for
emailed the guy a
sticking to
couple
it.
of
I mean,
times,
heck.
and he said he didn't even respond to the emails. And I sent him a spreadsheet showing what he was using, when he was using it, what hours it was going on, and how much it was. Didn't hear anything. And then I think one of my guys actually got access to the house and figured out what was going on there.
Yep, correct.
Just
So
the
do we
neighborhood
have a-
knocked on the door, or, sorry, David, I didn't mean to.
No, go ahead.
So did they reach out and say?
I
like,
believe they reached out finally
Okay.
and
Yeah.
said, "Can you have somebody come out and take a look at things?" And we went out and looked like we normally would do with any other resident that would
Yeah.
call. And we found almost immediately.
it's just without that measurement, without that tool to give you real-time measurements, you can't. I mean, we looked at this with Mary's house, and it's
But,
like,
even when you're seeing those big bills, you would have thought you'd questioned it a
Yeah.
little, you know?
Well, it's like,
Yeah.
do you get your mail? Where's that go?
Yeah, but part of it may be too, if it's a, benefit of the doubt, if it's a first-time home buyer and they've always rented and their utilities were included, they may not realize that water isn't supposed to be that expensive. Not sad to say, but could be true. I don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
so, yeah.
but they're ignoring the bill.
Yeah.
Right.
And so my question is, do we have a shut-off policy?
We do not.
I mean, in this case, if there was one, even if it was 6 months of no payment or something like that, it sort of forces the question. I mean,
Yeah, so the
Fix your
reason
problem
why
before it gets turned
the reason
back
why we
on.
don't have the shut-off policies, then we have to follow Minnesota guidelines for shut-offs, and unfortunately, sometimes water is used for heat, and then we end up with cold weather rules, and so then we end up
Yeah,
with not.
it's a
So
mess.
we can't do portions of people who don't have things and portions of the community that do, so. that's-
Historically, we've had a larger fine for being assessed for that reason, is because there are just some homeowners that will do this year after year and just have it assessed to their property. We did lower it for the opposite reason, for people to give them the benefit of the doubt. So
There's not a perfect system, unfortunately.
I noticed that a few of these were rentals. Is it maybe a way to get it onto the, I don't know. I'm just wondering the mentality here, because a lot of these people know what they're doing, and I don't understand why they would want to take that penalty.
Yeah, I'm unsure. We do send it out to both all the utility bills go both to the owner and to the renter every
renter.
month. So it's not like the
Yeah.
owner doesn't know about it either, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Easy come, easy go.
I will open up the public hearing. And is anybody online?
So if anyone would like to speak on this public hearing, please use the raise your hand function. I'm not seeing any.
Right. I will close the meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. And on to item K.
Oh, I didn't update the K. You're good. That's you. I just didn't update the thing, so that's from last week.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. What I'm looking to discuss tonight is the next phase of the Elsie Stevens Park, revisiting the master plan. Council spoke about this a little while ago. I think this is an opportunity for us to include whatever we think should be included and maybe take some of the items out. I know there was some questioning about the building on this site. I think that was one of the main driving forces, what that was going to be like, costs and timelines on that kind of thing. I think that what I would like to do is get something to put on in the RFP going out to, I think we've identified 3 different companies that are interested in doing this, and give them some guidelines so we don't just give them a blank canvas, so we can guide them a little bit as to what we would like to see in there and what we definitely wouldn't like to see in there, if that's at all possible. The Park Commission did look at this a couple of meetings ago, and I included what their suggestions were. There were various things in there: lawn bowling, mini golf, bars, restaurants, all kinds of different things on there that they were looking at. And they added a couple of extra items on there, and I don't know if those are realistic. I would like you guys to weigh in on some of that stuff. From the master plan, we have done a few phases, and I'll just go through what we've done. Phase 1 is on the screen now, which was basically putting in the street lights, some road access, the band performance area, the seating, the what do you call it, Scott? What's that thing called? It's not a pagoda.
Oh,
Pergola?
pergola.
That's the
Yeah.
word.
That waste of money?
That's the other term for it. And some landscaping in there, which was basically phase 1 of the master plan as we envisaged it. This is just an exploited view of phase 1 that we did. Phase 2, which was nearly completed last year, was a lot more trails, a bit more additional parking down by the river, more landscaping, and the bridges across the creek there. And then this is what's proposed for phase 3, which is going to be completed next year. So it'll be complete that bridge over the ravine, the irrigation that we talked about, additional shelter over the performance stage and extend that performance stage a little bit. The decorative gate at the old entrance to the place, signage, and then the picnic shelter and some additional parking as an alternate for this phase. So if we go to, this is the original master plan, and I have a list here, of things that have been completed. So this is the same coding as on the legend for the master plan. The patio was done with phase 1. We haven't done anything with the Veterans Memorial space yet. The outdoor performance area is completed. The performance platform is completed. Some parking has been completed down by the river. Overflow parking, we haven't touched any of that. The picnic area with shelter is an alternate in phase 3, as I described. Carrying boat access is going to be included with the 2025 water trail build-out. There's a lot of the trail was completed with phase 2. The regional trail was completed with phase 2. The trail underpass is completed. Turn lanes were completed this year. Entry signage is going to be done with 2024, 25 next year, and the existing stairs are in Cloquet Park. So we've got quite a few things there completed. So we're looking at the existing boathouse. I'm not sure what we're going to do with that. I think the idea is that it would be removed. I don't think it has any practical purpose there. I think it's too far gone to be safe, so we would probably remove that. The playground area is in the plan. We need to figure out what we want to do for that playground area. It's a premier park for Dayton, so we should have a premier type of playground in there. Then the horse barn, which is the one. I still think that there's a possibility there to use that horse barn for something. I would like to save it if we can get grant funding for it, but I'm not seeing too much of that at the moment. But we'll see. Existing silos.
Do you know that thing's open right now?
Say again?
The barn.
What about it?
It's open.
It's wide open.
It's wide open.
It's open, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. We've tried sealing it up a number of times.
Right.
But yeah, we can seal it up again, but it's...
My only concern is that the ladder getting upstairs is a precarious thing. And I'm wondering what kind of shape that second floor is in, because you have kids up there.
Okay. Last time I was up there...
I know, because my kid was up there.
The floor was pretty good, apart from where the hole in the roof was. Some of the boards in there were going there, but
yeah,
we can certainly secure it again until we figure out what we're going to do.
Or at least beat that ladder down. Take the whatever. Yeah, but
yeah.
My suggestion is don't put no more money into it, but
it doesn't turn into anything if we don't do that. Right?
Well,
so there's the existing silos, and there have been a number of ideas for those, from a viewing tower to making a coffee shop or a seating area out of the two rounder silos.
Sort, yeah.
Sorry?
Said like a concession area of some sort or something?
Something along those lines. And then on the original plan there was an outdoor classroom, which would probably be a nature-based thing, something that we could partner with the school in to see if there's some interest in what that could look like. Whether we plant a prairie or some habitat there to attract pollinators, that kind of thing. There's on the original plan there's going to relocate the historic old town hall building over to this site as well.
Okay.
Which could work for kayak or canoe rent, a little space for that, so you could have staff in there if we were renting out stuff in bigger picture, but there could be an opportunity for that. There's a restored prairie area located in there.
what kind of budget are you talking about, Marty? Because this is for phase 3. I mean, with this list here, you're talking a couple, $3-4 million.
Well, that's kind of where we're looking at, and that's not with the year-round event centre.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the things that are already identified on the plan. So
you're trying to understand like where our interest and what the next phase pieces look like?
Well, we want to go. We got the 3 phases identified. We want to figure out what the next phases are, what the costs are for those phases, what the cost is for the overall development of it, and start budgeting for those things. And the biggest thing is the year-round event centre. What does that want to look like? Do we want to have something that way? Does it want to be a community centre rather than an event centre? What are the differences? I need some guidance on that, really, because that's going to be the big ticket item there.
Yeah, I think that's we're not looking at that tonight, right? Because that's huge.
That's a good deal, but I mean, something to look at, and we talked about this at the EDA meeting last week. John Hoffman was out, and he got Champlin a boatload of money for Mississippi Crossing. And he'd be willing to see what he can do for us on this deal, too.
Okay.
But we have to come up with some sort of a plan on what we want to build.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally don't see the mini golf thing yet, but the bocce ball court is not that big a deal. But, I mean, ideally, my main things that I'd like to see done in the next 10 months ago, is some sort of a shelter for the picnic area and some sort of a half-decent performance area.
Scott, have you been to any of the Fisher Farm events?
No, I haven't been there.
They have a really, I think, I don't go to a lot of events, so your opinion is probably worth a lot more than mine is on this, but they have a really good
Covered stage.
covered stage there. And I was talking to them about it because they got it engineered and built it themselves. Did the whole thing for under $50,000. So who did it? He goes, we
None
did
of
it.
that shocks me. Well, once you bring
Yep.
an engineer and whatever else.
Yep. Well, and I
And
asked
we're in
him,
a floodplain too,
Yep.
so.
I asked him, I said, well, could you guys do that for the city? He said, yeah, we could do it for the city. You just put a bid in for it,
Yeah.
under the company. So I thought you might be interested in knowing and taking a look at it if you want to reach out to him, but
Well,
I know you've been looking for something that was a little more cost effective than what we've been talking
that's when,
about.
that's when you gotta get away from inside out and, I mean,
Yep.
so
It
far,
looks
we're still
good.
staying in that shell and we haven't
Yep.
ventured away from that yet.
Yeah, I know, and I think that in phase 3 there was an extension of that stage to enhance the performance area.
Yep.
Yeah,
So I think
but
that
we're
that's
behind with the whole park
Yeah,
stuff.
and then there'll be the cover over it of some
Correct.
description, whether it's a wood structure or a fabric structure. Or, that still needs to be defined yet, but that
Right,
will be
right,
coming
right.
back once Paul's started, design development on that.
So I think what we're looking for from council tonight is we kind of have identified the phase 3 items that we're going to do in next year in 2025, which were delayed from the 2024 project. But what we need to do is to be able to go out, we'd like to go out for RFP to be able to do the remainder of the items that you want to do in the master plan for Elsie Stevens. I think we've heard from council that there wasn't a lot of input or feedback in 2016 through 2018 with the project. It felt like it was more staff-led, which is not the ideal situation for us. We prefer it to come from council, which is why we're looking to do an RFP for this process, is to go out and get a different architect to be able to design it, and then work with council to figure out what do we want to do next, and what are these items that are on the Parks Commission suggested list. Or do we want to add any of these things to the Park Commission suggestions list? Do we not? I think that's what Marty and I are looking for tonight is, do you want to add any of these things, or do you want to just keep with what's on there currently in the plan and redesign it, or what is your
So I've got a couple thoughts on this, which is the event center. I don't think we need that in the foreseeable future, if possibly ever, as an event center. Is something else there? Maybe. And I only bring that up because we already have 2 event centers in the city and a third on the way, 3 event centers and a 4th on the way, and so we have a lot of event centers how it is, but there might be some use that we could find otherwise that I'd be open to. And then, we look at the Morris Leatherman survey, and Veterans Park was at the top of that. So I think that's something as we look at the next phase, I'd like to see prioritized, and it clearly is also something that the community wants to see prioritized. So I think that's something that the Parks Commission suggests that I think would help a lot. I think a lot of these things are fairly, I'm going to call them small, but could have an impact. So like concrete cornhole or bocce ball or lawn bowling. These are things that we could look at, like an outdoor games area that would be fairly straightforward. I don't think it's going to cost us $300,000 to do it. These are smaller things that we could use as interest points around the park.
Right.
So those are my initial thoughts on when I looked through all this and where I was at.
And
The concrete corn things are cheap. They're not that much money.
with this, it's where you put the things and
Yep.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's why I like to have a master plan, so we're not putting stuff where we're going to be tearing it out, 2 years later.
Right.
And I think that's what we did with the original master plan, and that's what we've been following. I just think that we need to enhance that master plan with all the future phases that need to be in there that we see at this time. To your point, Matt, I think I agree with you about the building there, but it's a central part of what we've designed so far. So if it goes away, we would have to replace that area with something, or do we want to put a separate type of building in there that has a totally different function? I think it has an integral part of this plan. And if we're going to revisit the master plan, I think that is something that definitely needs to be considered, whether it's going out or if it's staying in.
I mean, I could see something like what they have at Andrews Park, which is like a kitchen with a very nice covered area where you could have an event. And I've gone to events there; they're really nice. And if you had a spot for food trucks or whatever too, that was more purposefully designed with the right power needs, those kind of things. I think you could make a really nice event area out there without having to be a quote unquote event center. At least how I'm imagining event center. But I'll shut up now because people can talk.
Yeah, when is the playground equipment slated to go in? Because I look at that area and I'm like, people need something to do to keep them there, and kids' entertainment is definitely one of the things that draws parents in.
They got the barn.
None of it's slated to go in
Yeah,
right now.
Well, that when I go to those events at Elsie Stevens, I'm like, as soon as like you see the first person leave, it's like droves. Like, it's like, okay, there's nothing that really interests and keeps them there. Like moving in the park is a great element if you could do things beforehand because the kids want to release that energy and things of that nature. I think that's like an element that needs to get incorporated because we need people to have something to do while they're there other than just that sole event.
Yeah.
So I'm a firm believer in incorporating elements that like that. But future state, 15, 20 years from now, what do we want to identify that space as, knowing that we got kayaks and all that other stuff, so coming down the line with the parks, so.
Yeah, and I think that, it will be, we would look at the person who comes back with the RFP to design that playground and give us an idea of what would be good in there, what would be different. Do we want it to be just like all our other playgrounds, or do we want it to be something big and different as
Premier
to
park,
go
premier
into a
playground.
destination park?
Yep. All ages, right?
Yeah.
All the way down toddlers, all the way up to your tweens, or whatever you call those now.
Yeah,
I'll draw something out under 20
Trouble
grand.
tweens, yeah.
I would echo the concerns about the event center part of it, which you mentioned is a big part of it, so that's a significant change. I think a lot of these other elements on what gets included, I would like to see what we get from the RFP. I mean, we get a designer on board and say, here are the things, the 10 things we are interested in, and have them show us what that could look like, or something, this is not compatible with what you're trying to do over here.
Yeah.
That's not the kind of stuff that I feel like I can make a good judgment on. As it relates to the barn, I think we got to do something with it, or we got to call it on that. It can't stay as it is. It's a hazard, and we're going to get burned on it.
Are the silos and the grain bins, they're not even stable either, are they?
Last time we had a structural engineer look at them, he felt they were stable at that time. But that's probably 7-8 years ago now.
That'd be at least 6 years ago.
So we would have to get a structural engineer out to revisit that, and probably look at the barn as well, because that may have deteriorated at the same time.
The cement silos, I think, they're going to be fine for a long time.
Yeah.
We still may not have a clue what to do with them, but
Yeah.
you're looking at, us to whittle this list down, right? That's kind of what you're talking about.
We'd like to have some, if you're looking for
I mean,
things that you want to highlight that
there's a
are
few
not
things
already
that
on
I
the
think
plan
are-
or need to get taken out of the plan, just so we have a better idea when we're going off RFP of what we're giving some direction for.
I think what David was saying is exactly what I'm looking for here, is highlight some of the things we want, that we can present them to the architect or designer for this, and they would come back and say, hey, this would work, or this would be a better selection, or something like that. But we need somewhere to start with. And then it's going to be a process of elimination once we select the person that we're going to work with.
But right now, I mean, the shelter and the band shell area, and the sign you're talking about out front, you're probably talking $500-600 grand right now.
Correct.
And that's all phase 3 stuff.
Correct.
We're talking about phase 4.
I think he wants to know what out of this we want to add into 3.
Nope.
No, it goes.
Oh.
3 is set.
Into the
Three is
master
set, so
plan.
it's what we want.
What do you want, 4, 5, 6, and how can we break those out so we are all on the same page with what's included in each phase as it goes along? Right now, it's just been what works in the dollar amount, and we just pick some things and call it a day, and that doesn't work well for phasing, because then we're picking parts and pieces and not.
And I think what I'd also like to get from this RFP is a good, what is this going to cost, and what each element costs, and we can budget that way as well.
But is there another 5 or 6 available if all of a sudden you want to accelerate it? Because this thing it's dragging on forever.
That'll be up
I mean,
to-
we're going 3 steps
The only
forward
other
and 5
way,
backwards.
the only other way to do funding is through levy.
Okay.
So,
It just seemed like
or say we could do a bond. We just have to do a referendum with that bond.
it seemed like there was a few things in here that are kind of no-brainers to. I mean, a driving range.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's
Too much space.
yeah. I think a good solid restroom should have been in there from day one.
That's
Elements that keep people there right now. I
Yeah.
think that's the kind of the missing piece I see.
And
Yeah.
the picnic area and bench hill, are we going to have plans so that next spring, April, May, this can start?
They are going to be, I haven't got the time for, did
Or are we
you?
talking next September, October again?
No, we're going to bid that early
I
next.
think I sent out the Gantt chart to the council last week, 2 weeks ago, sorry.
Yeah, I don't have the dates in, but the idea is to get it all built out next year. So the design development, Paul's working on that now. He worked on the irrigation stuff first and then the bridge, and now he's working on the rest of the Stevens. He's got, I think, Neighbourhood 21 pretty much designed. Iron Gardens wasn't much to do on that, so he's working on those. Hopefully we're going to be able to get those plans and specs in front of you in February, or design developments in February, to get the final documents pulled together and then put it out to bid.
Yeah, so end of February would be authorized to bid, March would be bidding timeframe, award bid would be in April, we'd be starting construction in early May, or end of April, depending on weather.
At that point, would we be getting bids on DDs or CDs?
It'd be construction drawings.
Okay. Because you mentioned design development.
Yeah, that's the stage before we get to the construction.
Right, so I'm hoping that's not what we were going to bid on.
CD's construction documents would be in
Yeah.
May, or April, sorry. No, sorry,
Yeah.
February into March. That's what I meant to say.
You were thinking, what's the rate on those CDs now?
Yeah, I was like, where are we throwing money at? Where now?
Okay.
So what we're looking tonight is just an to go up for RFP,
Yep.
to select a architect to be able to help us move forward with phases beyond phase 3 and what we want to see in that park.
Yeah.
As in reviewed, or renewed master plan for that project.
So what I do is take comments and stuff from tonight's meeting, draw up an RFP and bring that back to the council to make sure that we're on the same page before we put it out to the architects that we're looking at working with.
I think we just look to approve their RFP tonight. And then we can just stay, I think, unless council has a problem with that, I would rather do it sooner than later.
I think that makes sense to me, and I would make that motion, because I think some of the things on this list I find desirable, but I think they're incompatible with other things that are on
Yeah.
the list,
Yeah.
and so we got to kind of pick a direction, and I'd like some guidance for that, so I think that's...
All set.
So you're going to let an architect figure out what you want?
Well, I'm just not sure, if we decide we want an ice rink or a path with refrigeration, then that takes a bunch of these other things off the list.
Right, yeah.
Right? And while I would probably use it, I don't know how, that's the highest and best use of that area.
They just
So
help us shuffle all those
So
pieces on.
what tonight is for is an RFP to be able to select that architect to
Yeah.
be able to help us. Doesn't mean we're approving anything of master plan style. It's just
And helping us means he's going to kind of iterate with parks and with us.
correct.
and-
Yeah.
That's correct. So the RFP is to be able to select an architect to be able to help us with the process.
Select multiple architects or one? Or where I'm going with this
Guess could
is
be
we
multiple.
seem to, there was a comment made a while back that we were going to kind of maybe go outside the box and maybe look for some other designers.
Yeah.
And we haven't done that. We're still glued to one.
That's what this
That's what
is.
this is.
This is looking
All right.
outside the box.
Good.
This is a
I can't wait.
outside the box.
So is that a second?
I seconded it.
Second.
Too late.
A third?
So, all right, so I got a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Is this something that we would look at more like quality over like quantity at that point, like the quality of the design? I guess I was asking the group. Because I know that we always go for lowest bid on things,
Yeah.
but is this something where we have an alternative thought where like, hey, they met more of the design requirements that we were looking at as we look at these bids coming up? I guess I'm not trying to convince a council. I'm just saying, like, is that something that we might do different here because we're looking at the
I think it'd
quality
be
of the park?
helpful to see plans they've done in the past and then photos of what it looked like in reality when they were done, so we can have a better understanding of, because if you work with a designer, designers have their own style, and so understanding their style and what that looks like may be
concepting
helpful.
is what it actually developed too.
But can we select the not cheapest one if we're looking at design items?
Yeah.
For some reason, I think you can use best value method.
Yeah, I think that's what
When
it is.
it's
'Cause I think that's what we
selected
did with the, sorry. I think that's what we did with the branding exercise.
Yeah,
We didn't go with the
thought so.
cheapest option. We went with the best value.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So it was the
exactly.
best option.
Yeah, so it depends. Amy, do you want to?
Just try two.
Mayor, members of the council, I could just chime in and say, it depends on how you issue it. You need to kind of set out from the beginning
Yep.
which method you're going to use.
Correct, yep. And I think at this moment, that the question that Councilmember Henderson is asking is, do we want to use the best value method versus the lowest bid method? Which is, best value is, what do you feel is the best value? Might not be the cheapest one, but it might be something that you get for the design or
Yeah, something
whatever.
that follows like our design
You got it.
like
Correct.
requirements that we
Quality
set,
of
Yeah,
items
exactly.
versus, yeah. But it would have to be done in the RFP process, so that would maybe be a good thing to clarify what the council would like.
Just my thoughts. Anybody?
I agree. I think we would be best served by looking at what do they bring to the table.
What's the offer?
in that. I don't know, how you would word that in the proposal, but we want to see what what they've done,
Yeah.
what their
portfolio.
design philosophy
Yeah.
is, but previous projects, I think,
Yeah.
would be a big part of that.
And I think that's generally the way it goes. They will present, when we did the branding, they presented a portfolio of their previous projects, and then we selected down from there. So I've got 3 that we've reached out to are interested. We could probably, do we feel like we want to go out to more people than that?
Will we post it publicly for anybody?
No, not yet. This
We
is
are
just
not.
private conversations that I've had.
We are not required, depending on the dollar amount.
How does that work? Could you like if a city had a park that we were like, hey, that looks really good as you built out, like who was your architect? Could you do something like that?
As long as so that we'd have to get more than one quote.
Exactly, but like, hey, they built a really cool park. I don't know which one's around us. I don't know how that works. So it's just, can you?
How does keyed off a dollar amount?
Yep, that's, it would be best value method, that's all, but it just has to go in the RFP when it's
Yeah.
written. That says the value is not based on the lowest bid,
Yeah.
it's based on the best value. So that means that typically what happens is contractors will then give you a higher price because they know that you want the best value, may not be the cheapest option then, so the price typically goes up with that because if they want the business, they're gonna give you the best product possible, which might cost more money. So again, if you're looking for cheap, it's not the best bid option because
I think there's some language in the branding RFP that we sent out as well that covers that, the best value option.
I mean, 3 is better than 1 for sure, but I think 5 would, if we get to 5, I think that, for me at least, think that helps. Because if we get to 3 and 2 of them are really bad or one's really bad,
Yeah.
it just really makes it hard then because you will have 3 to choose from. So I kind of assume you go for 5 and 2 are going to fall off once we see them right away, and then we're going to have 3 to choose from. But maybe we get 5 awesome choices out of it.
Yeah, I can certainly
That's my
expand, who we're going to
Well,
send
we're
this to.
looking- Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just think that if we're looking for best value, which I think includes some fresh thinking here, our chances are better if we cast the net a little wider.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
All right, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I guess.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank
Okay,
you.
on to item L. M.
Yep. Skip L, I'm gonna go to M. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. I'm stepping in for Jason Quisberg tonight, who is out sick, so hope he feels better quickly. This is for the approval of plans and specs, authorizing plans and specs for Stantec to move forward with the South Diamond Lake Road improvement projects. Just some project information so that it's refreshed. This identifies the pavement management plan that was accepted by the council earlier this year. Identifies South Diamond Lake Road as an overlay treatment in 24 and 25. Some segments identified in 24 we delayed and combined it with 25 for efficiency. We may need to mill at some of the length of the project, so that will need to be identified during the design process. In roughly 5 miles of roadway, preliminary cost of estimates from the engineers are 1.3 to 1.5 million. We are going to work with the city of Rogers to be responsible for costs that would be a segment in Rogers to be able to get to Brockton Lane. They have agreed to do those project costs with us. Champlin has declined improvements for that segment in Champlin, so we will end the project short of Dayton River Road, even though it's only, I don't even know, 50
Block
feet
and a
or a
half.
block and a half. It's not that long, but the city of Champlin has declined
Okay.
moving forward those improvements. Unsure why.
I thought they had just done it a couple years ago.
Say that again?
That little section, I thought they had just done that a couple years ago.
That may be why they don't want to do it, but
Doesn't matter, it's a
yeah,
little.
Rogers has agreed to do it, so they are going to acceptable with the project costs related to that process. The proposed project, again, all it goes from our Dayton border on the east side all the way into Rogers. So we will do some work again into Rogers to get to Brockton Lane. I think that project will actually look out really well and actually turn out to be a better product if we do a continuous project all the way down there. Our recommendation is to approve the engineering proposal, authorizing plans and specs, and that'll be $22,500. That is all you're approving tonight. I will stand for questions, and I'm not an engineer.
My two questions were Jason type questions, so I guess I can email him or something. I was just curious as to, I gotta believe some of those soils are nasty, and I'm just wondering if the mill and overlay that we did before would have kind of told us what areas we may have to beef up at some point. If we rebuild the
So I
road.
believe we would use the same, we would start with that process that we did in, was it
2012, I think it was.
2013?
Yeah, it was somewhere
That we did a mill and overlay project on. So I think we'd utilize that as the beginning process and see where we want to add more. That might be a spot where we would say maybe we would, instead of an overlay of, a mill and overlay or something of an inch or inch and a half, we'd do 2 inches or 2.5 inches there. Just because we know it's poor soils, but that'll be all plashed out, I'm assuming, during the plans and specs.
Was any of that detailed out in the pavement management study?
It was not. It was just identified for a full 2-inch overlay on the entire project because there is no sewer and water or not sewer and water. There's no storm water along that road. It's just, what do you want to call it? Yeah, drainage swales
There's a
or
few
whatever.
tiles,
There's no curb and gutter. So that was identified for an overlay, and then we would just tie in all of the driveways into that overlay. If we were to raise it 2 inches, we'd just tie in all the driveways to that. So, but we can do a mill in spots just to make it a little more level or whatever. That's why it was done, just a strict overlay and not a mill and overlay.
Will this be done during the summer so it won't affect the school and school traffic?
That would be the identified process. Yeah, so the identified process would be to probably go out, I think from what I remember Jason said that he wanted to go for bids in April or even end of March, and then be able to award the bid sometime in May so that they could start construction right after school starts.
Okay.
Or school ends, that's
Okay.
correct.
And then, do we have any other overlay or mill and overlay projects on the 25 plan for the road or the road
Not that
plan,
I
is it?
remember. The only other one would have been an assessment project that we're looking at, and I think that's for Territorial Road between Brockton Lane and Dayton Parkway, and that is a larger project. It relates to sewer and water and roadways, but it's an assessment project and not a levy project. This would be a levy project.
And how much do we have budgeted for this? For next year?
I believe in the long-term plan it's 1.4 something million. It's in the long-term plan that we will talk about after item P. It's within the engineer's estimate since he just gave it to me.
Perfect. I'll motion to move ahead with the test
Second.
one.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Second ever.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Carries 5-0. On to item N.
Mayor, members of council, we do have John on Zoom. Are you able to go?
Can you speak, John?
I can speak if you can hear me.
Oh, boy.
There we go, yep. Floor is yours, John.
Oh, turn the TV down.
Hold on 1 second. All right, now try again, John.
Okay, am I echoing?
There you go.
Nope, now you're
That's
good.
better.
I'm also feeling under the weather, so I'm gonna go quick on this. So this is for Dayton Creek Edition. There's 3 applications. Number 1 is for a comprehensive plan amendment to amend the comp plan staging area from 2020 to current. The second is the zoning map amendment to change it from A1 agricultural to GMU 5 general mixed use. And the third application is for preliminary plat. And just to state where this is exactly, it's along Brockton and in the Dayton Parkway. So there's the project that is both on the north side of Dayton Parkway and the south side of Dayton Parkway. Specific to the preliminary plat, the project includes right-of-way as well as 11 outlots. So the developer's intent is to market these outlots for development by others. Those future developers would then have to replat each outlot into a specific use. So at that time, you'd have a new development and a new site plan review. With the GMU 5 district, it's the intent that 60% of the area is residential and 40% is commercial. The residential portion is intended to have a density of 12 to 20 units per acre, so in other words, these are apartments. This concept plan for this was reviewed back in 2022. When this went to Planning Commission review this past month, the Planning Commission did recommend approval for it. The developer is requesting a reduction in right-of-way width on the south cul-de-sac from 80 feet to 60 feet. Planning Commission was okay with that, although staff is still recommending 80 feet. With that, I can stand to answer any questions.
Go ahead.
So I have one that's a little more broad, but we're entertaining moving these two parcels from the 2020 staging plan into current. And I guess my question is, why aren't we moving that whole triangle into current? I know there's other development interest in this vicinity, and it just seems like redundant work to do this again when it appears that this area is ready to be developed.
Sure, we can do that, we just can't do that tonight.
Because
Because of the posting.
Correct. Because of the posting.
That's correct.
okay.
Your question is not a bad one, it's just, we can't do it tonight because of the posting that was done. We can put another posting out to have moving everything to 2020 to current, which is fine. It just has to be done with another public hearing process.
And would we be able to combine that request then into one for the Met Council?
Yes, yep.
Because that seems to be, where we would gain some efficiency here. It sounds like we can't avoid talking about it twice.
Not on this parcel, no. But on a future parcel, yes.
I'd be okay with that. I think that makes
Yeah,
sense.
makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
My only thought on this, and I see it's bright yellow on the map, but it's kind of almost hidden in the packet, is the property to the north of this, that little triangle.
Yes.
That will never get access directly onto 94, will never get access to the west, so I just want to make sure that that property isn't landlocked, and we'll get access, and we'll have the ability to do that when that time comes that property developed.
So currently with the preliminary plat, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, I'm just answering because I'm here quicker than you are, that is not being extended for right-of-way to the north property line.
Right.
So it's staff's recommendation would be to extend that right-of-way to not landlock that individual property, although the developer would argue differently, knowing that he's standing there, he would agree with me. And that's why he's not proposing that in his, what do you want to say, in his project currently. I believe then he could come up and discuss if he'd like to either. But I think his idea would be that once that property were to sell on the north side, his yellow chunk there, I think, that they would then dedicate that right of way and not the developer.
It doesn't matter to me when that land gets dedicated, if it's now or in the future, because unless you tell me there's a good reason it should happen now and we shouldn't wait till the future. But my concern more or less is we have a landlocked piece of property then that either is going to have farming forever on it, which depending on what goes there may or may not even work for that area, but it also isn't good for the city, I think, long term to do that. And so my concern is that it is known that there needs to be a way to connect those properties together. Whenever the best time to do it is, I'd look for staff to direct me on that.
So to answer your question, Councilmember Trost, is that if you do not dedicate right of way with this current project, the individual to the north, the triangle to the north, would have to work with the property owner to the south in order to get access. So if that, I'm going to use your screen because you have the little orange thing up right now. If that orange parcel does not develop, that northern triangle can never get access to the road. So if say the northern triangle says they want to sell today and I'll sell for $1 to any developer, there's no way they can still get access to that besides a farm, which is your comment or question. Without that right of way, if you were to dedicate right of way with this
Yeah, you can find
project
out.
and preliminary plat, then they would be able to get access whenever, because they'd be able to pull the road through without having to get
So
approval from the landowner.
I thought I had seen it somewhere that the north property will be allowed full access to the roundabout.
They will not. They have
Okay.
been denied that.
So where did I read that? Go ahead, John.
Oh, sorry, one addition, so we do have some communications with Hennepin County that, it's all the wording. Their preference is that there be no access to that roundabout. They haven't said definitely no, they're not going to allow it.
I thought they did.
I thought that, go ahead.
Let
me tell you
Your name and,
Now the roundabout is functioning, and it's functioning better than they thought it would. So their term is that they would prefer that there not be an access to that roundabout, but they've not denied it.
I thought I had read that actually said it would likely be approved, but, okay, go ahead, Ken.
I was going to say a few things about that. Number one, we've been talking about that for many years.
Oh, can you put the microphone in front of you, Ken? That'd be great. Thank you.
And then can I just get your name and address?
Oh, Ken Streeter, 6900 Winnetka Circle, Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, 55428.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. And I represent the Shaney Group. We've been talking about this for a number of years, and actually this body at one point agreed with me, and subsequently there's been a lot of misinformation provided to you. So in talking to the landowners, and then I believe the city in this report that you received tonight said that they contacted the county, and I think Zach said it properly, they would prefer not. But they aren't saying they're not going to do it. So they are not landlocked. They're not landlocked today, they're not landlocked tomorrow. And frankly, the reason I have been so adamant about not wanting to do it is, number one, the property may be developed together. Okay, that's a possibility, and not a bad possibility, not an unlikely possibility. Second of all, we have a letter sent from, remember us laughing about this? You didn't have to trust me, I had the attorney draft it for you, that said, we won't develop that lot until we have a resolution of that problem. But we continue to come to these meetings, and we continue to argue about something that's been a falsehood for the last 3 years.
And I'm not trying to argue about anything, I just want to make sure that we're looking at the big picture and not just the one picture, so I'm not trying to.
And I looked at it too, but we keep covering the same ground, and this is.
Yeah, you have to give us a bit of a leeway though, because we haven't talked in how long, right? So.
A year.
So I appreciate it. I appreciate you reminding us, but.
It doesn't go fast enough for me, but I hear what you're saying.
So who is Chad Ellos?
He's the Hennepin County Transportation.
So I found this thing in here. It's on page 110 of the agenda. And it says that the county may allow the north adjacent parcel to access, and they got a footnote of 5, and it says per an email from this person. I thought that one of the primary reasons not to do the right of way is because you don't know where it's going to be. You have no clue.
Or where either of us might want it.
Exactly.
And then if it were developed all in apartments, for example, or any kind of housing for that matter, that road isn't going to go straight up and down. It's going to wiggle like a snake in a frying pan. So, well,
you ever had a
bad analogy.
I wasn't going to go there, but.
No, I'm saying nobody knows where it's going to go.
And it would behoove everybody to, when that develops, it
But
gets
that's
connected.
why we came forward with the letter,
Yep.
all kidding aside, and I wanted it to come from the
Yep.
client's attorney, not just me sitting here in front of you, to say, we aren't going to do anything until we all figure that out. So we didn't want that problem. Now, I'm happy to talk about it again tonight.
Real quick, I'm Vicki Vandell with WSP, and I'll just give some quick background on that too. With WSB, I'm sorry. So as far as that north-south road goes, again, same thing Ken was saying, where we don't know what's going to happen with the development, if it's both of them, or if it's just this piece. But we cannot develop Outlot B until we come back in front of you guys. So at that time, we understand that we will be working with you if they are indeed landlocked, that we will be working with
And
you
I
on that.
can't sell that land or get somebody to a point where they would come before you without them being able to walk on it. And from our property, you can't get to that property. And we've worked for a year or longer than a year with the Army Corps to get permission to cross that water and work out all the details on that. That's why there's just a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, but those approvals are all complete, all the wetland approvals are done, so we're very happy about that and ready to move on to construction.
So just to reiterate, your previous commitment and letter is still valid and would be a part of any approval here.
I don't remember the letter of everything that was in there. I don't remember that.
Yeah, I remember the letter.
You do?
It distinctively said that they would figure it out. Yep.
It was basically like, almost like a promissory note.
Yep.
It was the, I get it. And I understand the problem, and I'm fine with it.
And the council's been fine with it in the past, and the planning commission was fine with it.
Yep.
I got a couple other items, so mostly to clarify. In number 3 of the staff comments on page 1 of your documents that I think you got to send when we do.
Oh, can you move the mic in front of you?
Sorry. I get so relaxed with you guys. I'm serious, like sitting in my living room. Well, there's nobody telling me what to do. Well, maybe yes. All right, so here it is. We have talked to you, we've talked to the planning commission. The code requires 50 feet, we're going to give 60 feet. But they threw a little hook in here. That didn't come up at either the council meeting when we met with you about the 60 feet or the planning commission meeting when we met with them 60 feet. The right-of-way could be required at the time the outlots are replatted. You don't need it, and there's a little feeble argument way back in the Stantec's report that says that they need it for utilities. Don't forget, when we plat these lots, we have to give a 10-foot drainage and utility easement. So there is going to be plenty of room for that. So I'm asking you to just clarify the fact that we're going to do 60 feet. Because we're going to be in there, we're going to build it, we're going to do 60 feet. Then the second, any comments or questions on that? Then the second one I have is that, this gets a little deep, so bear with me a minute. There's number 10 in the Stantec report. Do you all have that Stantec report?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so go to number 10 if you would, please. And here we talk about the fact that we've asked that to get through the Army Corps, we could not take our road to our property line. So we're going to curve it in the interim, okay? But when the fellow to our east, or whomever comes along to develop to the east, they're going to ask us to redo that to back to what would be, I call the original layout of that road. So we're curving it instead of going this way, we're curving it. I have a couple comments on that. Number 1, we're all good with that. I want to point out that they've asked us to the developer to provide an escrow for the completion of this work. What we're going to complete is the realignment part of it, not complete the extension of it down to the edge of the property. We don't need it. We shouldn't pay for it. We're doing the same thing with the city and with helping that developer out on the west side, where they've asked us to put a fire lane in for everybody. We're okay with that. And we're okay with correcting our change. Now, I also want to point out, should that fellow go first, there'd be no correction, right? Because we just build it, you know. But we're happy to make, not happy, but we will pay for the correction, if you will. But I wanted to be sure that tonight we're understanding. I will pay for the correction, the realignment, if that's the fair word, but not the extension of that road to the edge of our property line. And I think that's fair. We've given an easement for it, so that's not going to be a problem. You got the land. Somebody wants the road, let them build it.
Yeah, is that a right-of-way or easement? I can't remember based on the
I
document.
thought we gave it as an easement at this time because I don't, you tell me, Vicki.
Sorry, Vicki Vandell. So the South Road has the
Yeah.
full-on right-of-way.
Okay.
The curve has
Yes.
an easement.
Got it. Yep.
And then the right-of-way is being platted in its final condition, so.
That's it.
Okay. And I only got one more, all right? Any questions on that, though?
No.
Then the other thing I want to talk about is a little bit.
Go in front of the mic again.
And that's the number in your.
Can you move the mic back, please?
Microphone.
No worries.
The last one I want to talk about is number 73 and number 90. I can explain what they're talking about. So I don't understand how this happened, but when you built the access point to our north side and to our south side, it was built wrong. You can't handle trucks. The turning radius is wrong. It's not wide enough. So on our plans, we're showing it correctly, like it needs to be to work, okay? But now they got a comment in here that's our cost to pay for. And I don't see that. I see whoever designed that for you, whoever built it for you, whoever did this or that, they're the ones that should be paying for that correction. We can do the work. We're talking about the dollars and cents here. Then the other thing that kind of, really kind of scares me is they bring up the fact that we've got to move street lights and we've got to move utility lines and this and that. That's something better done by the city than by me or anybody working on my behalf. And I think that needs to be addressed. It's buried in the report. I don't expect that any of you paid attention to it. I had to read it a few times myself to be sure I knew what I was talking about. And the only reason I know what I was talking about is Vicki explained it to me.
Hey, Jason.
Well, I mean,
That's a great, Jason. I don't have the answer for you. So.
Okay. So, do
can
you?
I just say one other
Go
thing?
ahead.
And if I were you, when they do all that, they kind of do it when they're doing the stoplight. I just don't think my client should be paying for it, really, because we didn't do it wrong. Nobody called me and said, how wide should that be, Ken? So now that they figured out they did it wrong to begin with, that should be somebody else's nickel. Having said that, we can do the work. We're just talking about dollars and cents. That can be dealt with in our developers agreement, So I'm bringing it up because it's a big issue for my client, rightfully so.
So let me just throw this out there. And I do read all of these things, but I don't have Vicki next to me to explain it to me. So,
I know how you feel.
So I don't always understand what the ramifications of some of this stuff are. But so my thought on it is because earlier here in number 72, we talk about participation ultimately in the stoplight piece. Couldn't this be just folded into that this work needs to happen ultimately?
And it could be done at the same time, but I'm asking in a sense of fairness here. The stoplight is going to be spread out between a number of people.
Yes.
I'm not sure this correction should. I mean, I don't know who did what. I don't know if MnDOT did that for you. Obviously, you weren't up there with a shovel. So who did it and who did it wrong?
But you're referring to the work, not the cost. Or are you referring to the cost also?
The cost, I guess that's where I was going, is that, if it gets folded into sort of that general expectation that you or your client is going to participate in the cost of improving that intersection, that couldn't that be folded into this scope of work as well, that those things also need to happen and you'll participate on some level?
I think this is going to cost a few bucks if in that report. They say, you have to have traffic control, you have to do this and that. And I don't know what it takes to get somebody out there to move those power lines or whatever utilities are buried in there. Are we in the way of any? I doubt it. But, the sewer should be underground. But, what are we doing? And this is not something really, that's trunk stuff. So it's something the city should want to do, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
So your opinion is that we probably spec'd it correctly and it was built incorrectly? Or you don't know?
It was designed incorrectly, in my opinion, because there's no reason for somebody to build it wrong. It just wasn't wide enough, based on your own engineering, or the consulting engineer's report, is saying that it needs to be widened for trucks to make a turn. Now, going back all those years, because I came here, I was a young man, if you recall. If you go back all those years, we had it guided for the piece southeast of us, I call it, they were going to be light industrial or office warehouse at that time. So somebody had to know trucks were coming. But even if they didn't think about that, you got to have trucks to build anything. So they just designed it wrong. And that should not, the financial burden of that should not be ours. I'm not sure it should be yours.
That's what I was getting at. If we knew that it was built wrong, we could.
I think that's something staff can work through. I mean,
Yeah, it is.
To me, it's
It
something
seems
that
reasonable.
you gotta get a number out of it.
Correct.
And then negotiate it out, figure it out.
where it goes.
Now, the only reason I'm bringing it up is, if you're nice enough to approve this for us tonight, that's a condition. And I would ask you respectfully to deal with these matters I brought up in what you do, so it doesn't get approved as a condition, but it gets approved the way you want it to get done. You follow what I'm saying? In other words, we can't say we'll deal with it because you're approving my project subject to those conditions. Those conditions say my client has to pay for it.
Part of the whole thing here is you can't have what you don't ask for, and that's probably why it's asked for. So
I would guess. Yeah, that engineering memo comes from engineering, not from staff.
right.
No, I get that.
I mean,
See,
why would you not say, hey, you can do anything you want, but you're going to pay for it?
well,
So, to me, just figure out the numbers and then talk about it.
your ask is to pull this out as a condition, and we will work on it at another time when we figure out what the numbers are, where the responsibility should be.
Yeah, I had no idea anything about that. So.
No.
It can be all done in
I'm
a
not trying to
day,
trap anybody.
I understand it.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're thinking?
What's that?
Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, I'm
though?
thinking that, we still have to do a developer's agreement. We
Right,
got time.
right.
But I don't want to commit on behalf of my client tonight that we're going to pay for that work.
I get it.
I think that can be included in the DA. Absolutely, it can.
Whatever.
Have no problem with it.
And then the clarification on the construction of the road as opposed to the realignment and the 60 feet.
Yeah, I think we just add a caveat at the end of that, what item 90 or whatever that item is. That would just say,
72,
worked on
90.
through staff or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Is it 73 or?
72 and 90, I think is what you
I'm fine with the 60 feet
73.
also.
73 and 90, yeah.
Yeah, we just add a caveat at both end of the items with those conditions. It says that staff will work through with the developer.
So,
Seems
I had a
reasonable.
couple of questions. You originally were looking at a 50-foot instead of 60, and you were talking about at that point, you allocate 10 feet for utilities. What is that, how does that, is there a benefit to the project if you go with 50 instead of 60? And is there?
Your code requires 50.
Yep.
We were in front of you and we said we would do 60.
Yep.
We sent the plans in because our engineering firm found out the code only required 50. When I was in front of the planning commission, I said, I told the council I'd do 60. I opened my big mouth. You want 60, I'll do 60. So let's do 60. Now, is there an
Okay.
advantage to the client? Yes. As we all know, I got water everywhere.
Yeah, you got, yep.
So the more land I can keep for development, I mean, I'm really fighting for inches here. So, but I said 60 to you, I said 60 to them. I can't get out of 60. And trust me, I'm way out of 60 now.
Well, I guess my concern is that I would like to see this project succeed as you would. If this 50 helps you and it doesn't run a risk for the city, it's a no-brainer, but I don't know. Jason's not talking over here.
Jason's not talking. Yeah, that's correct, 'cause I'm not Jason. I would say that we would suggest to have 60 feet, and I've talked with Jason at length about this, and the
Okay.
reason for it is
He's-
because we don't know what's going to be there.
Yeah.
So if we knew there was
that.
going to be XYZ item, then 50 might be fine. But if we don't know, we have to plan for the worst-case scenario, which would mean.
But I
a
didn't need
minimum
the 80
60.
feet. I don't
Right.
need the
No, I
80
get that.
feet.
I don't, yeah.
He's fine with
We can go-
60, so just go with it.
It says
Simple.
neighborhood collector is 60, 80 feet. If this was a longer stretch of road, I think we'd propose to have 80 feet if there was turn lanes and whatever else.
I think another
But-
criteria is it has to connect to something. We don't connect to anything.
Yeah,
We're
correct,
going to have a little
but-
fire lane over there now.
Okay.
But we're not going to have a connection, which is kind of a shame for all of us. At least a right end there, to take the traffic off of that corner. But that's yesterday's news.
Mayor, so a 60-foot right-of-way allows for 12 feet beyond the curb. So 12 feet for utilities or any sidewalk that might fit in there.
Yep.
If it's 50, it gets really tight.
Well, then why is our requirement 50?
That's because that code probably isn't updated in umpteen years like a lot of our codes.
Okay.
We'll address that later.
We'll go with the 60.
Yep.
I would just, I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good.
And thank you, so I appreciate the time, I do.
So I'm okay with the rest of the planning commission recommendation. I think, we can make adjustments to 73 and 90. Is that what it was, 73?
Yeah,
and
we
90?
just had a caveat there that says, work on it with staff.
We'll work on that later.
I want to leave the caveats in there because I don't know what engineering, the reason for that, but I would say that we'll just work with the staff.
Mr. Mayor, a question on the conditions of approval. Item 3 refers to the surety for the realignment of the curve. That is specific to the curve, not the extension to the adjacent property. I don't know if that answers your question or
If that's your interpretation and that's where the council feels we are, I think we're comfortable with that. I'm not sure, when I read it and when I had others read it, the way it's phrased, and it said the developer should be responsible, it kind of grabbed everything above that, and above that it talks about the extension. So if you're clarifying for the record that we're only talking about the rehabilitation and not the extension, I'm good.
that's correct.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I wanted everybody to be clear on it. You know what I mean? I want everybody to know what we're doing and what you're doing.
I would agree with John.
Okay. All right.
I'm good.
I will need a motion.
I'll make a motion to go approve.
With those changes
Yeah, with the, yeah.
and clarification, I'll second it then.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
And John, I hope you feel better.
Item O.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to summarize this real quick. So the Met Council has what's called the Livable Communities Act, which is several grants that are available to communities that participate in the program. In order to be a participant, the cities are required to adopt affordable housing and lifecycle housing goals. So specific to Dayton, this includes a goal, and I want to be clear that this is a goal, not a requirement. A goal to provide or to create the ability of having 183 to 333 affordable housing units within the current decade, and the life cycle housing goal of 1,140 units within this decade. Life cycle housing is defined as density that's at least 8 units per acre. So an example would be probably tighter townhomes or apartments. The reason why I have an interest in this program, and I'm using the example of Blaine, is that Blaine was able to receive $56,000 that were used to provide an assessment to mobile home park for either rehabilitating homes or moving or replacing mobile homes. This is an option that I can see that we could go after that would assist Dayton Park in some of their homes that are in not the best condition. So I understand that there's probably some I don't know. I'll just say disagreement with the Met Council, but these are public funds that we've already paid for, and so it's an advantage. I would say it would be good for us to take advantage of this program. And so that I can try to answer any questions before I leave my voice.
Thanks for the help on the life cycle housing definition. I still not sure quite how that describes what this is talking about, but I do have a concern around the goal of 1,140. We've developed at 200 houses a year the last 2 years, or that's about where we're going to finish this year. We'd like to stay there, but we don't have full control over that, I think. But it's 2025. basically, and this thing goes to 2030, so that would be basically all of the housing. If we stayed at that 200 per year rate, need to meet that definition to meet this goal. And that seems like a big commitment to me.
John, what does obligated not to prohibit affordable housing from occurring mean?
So affordable housing realistically is only going to occur if it's apartments. If we rezone the whole city for single family, there's no chance of getting affordable housing. So that would be an example of prohibiting affordable housing from occurring.
Say that again. What would be that example?
If we zone the whole city for single family.
Okay, but does that not include, let's say somebody comes forward with a project and they need, say, a CUP, IUP, or a zone request? How does this not factor in when it says we can't prohibit?
So if someone applied for, a CUP for an apartment building or something, you're allowing the opportunity for affordable housing to occur. Then it's up to the developer whether or not they want to build it. So
Okay, but it does say we're obligated not to prohibit. That's what I'm getting hung up on. I mean, the whole thing kind of,
I think
Smells to me.
the
Process.
answer to your question, Mayor, is that if there were to be a project for affordable housing, we could not deny it based on the fact that we don't want affordable housing.
well, we would never do that, but we would
that's
say,
we can't prohibit it essentially, so we can't force it to not happen because we don't want it to happen there, or, because they might not.
So how does that play out? We had a request in the area that we were just talking about, or near there, that required a large, almost permanent TIF commitment to support it. Would we be somehow prohibited from saying no to that?
No, you could still say no.
I think if there was other, because that had other situations related to TIF. So say that same project came in, it was not TIF requested, but they used other funding sources from the federal government or the state to get affordable housing in there. You couldn't, say no because it's affordable housing. We'd have to have, essentially we'd be able to say, we'd have to help that through.
so I guess what I'm getting at is we would never say no to affordable housing. What we would say no is to other
subsidies,
other things that come with it. So when they say you're obligated not to prohibit, I mean, that seems like they get to kind of decide what that means.
They get to decide, hey, you're going to build
I
this
have
many
zero
cheap
confidence
units.
in the Met Council, so I'm not here.
I'm not going to argue. I don't know differently, so I'm going to say sure because I don't know any differently.
We talked about this at EDA last week, and none of us had any interest in this at all.
Was there, was the same concerns, or what?
Just being dictated on what you have to have and not have to build. I mean, I don't want to be all of a sudden have Met Council say, hey, you signed up for this program, now I want you to build 500 cheap homes. I just, in my opinion, if you can't afford to build it, you can't afford to buy it. So that's just the way it is.
Would it be beneficial if somebody, like a rep from Met Council, came and explained it a little bit better? Because there was an option on the website, I went and explored a little bit, that you could call or have a representative call you and discuss what this meant and things of that nature. I just feel like there's opportunities in Dayton where I feel like this could apply and could apply very well. I just, are we locked, by Dennis's comment, are we locked in at that point on something, or is there a broader term definition to it? I just feel like I don't have enough education.
That could be a good option, and no money's ever free is
Right.
probably the term that you get to. Is that there's always caveats to everything, that you get free money, but then I can live in your house whenever I want to, kind of deal. But there's always those kind of deals that I'm referring to, that nothing's ever free.
Well, I think that's a good idea. to really talk about what do they mean by you can't say no in particular, but it looks like we have a November 15th deadline to do something on this, which leaves us one meeting.
30, yeah.
So I don't know how practical that is, but it's worrisome to me because just the owner housing piece of it talks about the 60% AMI and an affordable home price of $217,000. What can even be built for that?
You can't build anything for that. Condos.
So I mean, some of this seems unachievable to me.
So I share the same concerns that have already been voiced, so I'm not going to revoice them all, but I will say, the one I will revoice is that, we've worked with the Met Council before, and I think we have good reason not to trust everything that's just placed in front of us from them, because it hasn't worked out in what we would all, maybe not speak for everyone, what I would not consider to be in this city's best favor, as with many of our residents, and so I'm hesitant to move forward with this. I have the same general feelings that kind of came out of the EDA around that, but I'm happy to hear more and get questions answered. I don't think getting more information is a bad thing. I just don't know if we're going to get it in time. And who's to say that person doesn't misspeak and then we sign up for something without realizing it? So again, I don't.
I'd rather come from.
I don't feel it's unfounded. I've got trust issues with the Met Council, as many of us do, and
Nobody works with the Met Council.
Yeah. So that's my bigger concern. If this was coming from Hennepin County, I'd be slightly more interested. That doesn't mean I'd say yes, but I'd be slightly more interested just because who it's coming from is worrisome to me.
No, I get it.
So if we want to have someone in, I'm happy to hear them out with an open mind and listen. That's I'm okay with that too, if that's what we decide on.
Yeah, it sounds like from the council's, we could also look at this for the next decade as well. We don't have to do it now. This is likely going to be a program that's going to continue into the 2031 through 2040 decade as well, so.
Mr. Mayor, this is an annual program, and so the only deadline we have is November 15th every year. So we can discuss the same next year.
Sure. I think that would be more advantageous
So,
for us.
no interest in moving?
No interest.
All right, that's item 1.
Thank you, John.
Now we are up to item P, Morris Leatherman survey.
Yep, being married members of the council. I was out here last week, so I appreciate the responses back. Again, I'm just, staff is here just to answer questions, talk about items that were discussed. There was 2 items that were sent to staff for discussion. One of them was the residential speed limits, and one of them was Fire Station 3. And they are on this slide as you see here. Not sure what the questions or comments we want to talk about. This is just general discussion for the council for future meetings that we can take direction from. And anything else that you may want to discuss from the survey. That was the only question that we had received was these 2 items. So, take it away.
So the city street speed limits, we have talked about this a number of times in the past, but we finally have at least a number. So the whole point of this thing was we weren't going to go out for referendums. We felt that this would be a better route. And so we have the answers now. And it looks like 71% wanted those speed limit city streets reduced. So I guess what I'm thinking on this one is that we move forward and determine what it will take to implement. I think, Chief, you had talked to us in the past about what we needed to do here. It seems like we can take a look at what that really means, what it really costs.
We might want to wait for a meeting that Quisberg is here. I know that he had mentioned, we spoke about it, and there is a significant cost.
There's significant cost?
There is significant costs into changing the speed limit. So it's not saying that it can't be done, but
Right.
it does come with a cost.
But that would be the information we would need, that discovery would.
I think staff would need direction from council, from majority of the council that would say we want to move forward with investigating this process.
I think just some rudimentary information.
Yep.
To what that would take. You can argue whether or not the efficacy is there. The problem is, I shouldn't say it's a problem, the
71% of the people say they want it reduced, so we should at least take a look at that.
We've been hearing this for a while, and I heard it 1 month into being at council, so I'm in the same boat.
Yes.
I think we need to do more research on it and figure out what the cost is gonna be and what it really looks like, and if Jason and the chief wanna weigh in as well, I think that'd be helpful at that point, but I think putting together I know we got some information in the packet, but a more,
Scope. kind of-
yeah, I know cost, part of it's the signs. I know signs, believe it or not, aren't cheap. But I think it'd be good to understand like what that cost actually means and what we're looking at, and getting more information would be helpful.
I think yeah, I'll continue and then I'll answer. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm moving my mouth and
No,
not saying
you're good.
anything. Yeah, I'm certainly in favor of moving forward, not necessarily approving this tonight, because I would like to understand what costs or studies or, what we have to do to make that change. I don't think it should be that hard, but I also, had some concerns in the narrative. It talks about the MnDOT report stating an average of 1 to 2 mile an hour reduction in speed when lowered, and which doesn't sound like a lot,
Right.
but I looked at the report a bit closer, and that well, it's not a conclusion, but that average is kind of misstates what we're talking about here. In that, I looked at the streets that were studied, right? 21% of them had no change in speed limit. I don't know why they're included in the study, but 21, and lo and behold, there was very little change in speeds on those roads. Well, okay, that took rocket science. But of the three roads that actually were a 30 to 25 mile an hour change, range from 5.5 to 7 mile an hour reduction in speed. And that's real to me. And, maybe I'm not studying, I'm not a civil engineer. I've said it a bunch of times. That was my dad, and that's why I know nothing about it, because I had to listen to him my whole life. Sorry, Dad. But, looks to me like that number is a lot bigger than what's stated here. And so I wouldn't want that to dissuade us from moving ahead, because I think it understates the actual impact in their report. They just didn't frame it that way.
I think there's something that's not in this report too that I did some research on, which is stopping distance at 25 miles an hour versus stopping distance at 30 miles an hour. When you're talking a residential neighborhood and a kid darting out, I think I have numbers in front of me, it was like 25, 30 feet, and that can be a significant difference in stopping when you're talking about residential area. So I'd like to see information, more substantial studies on that as you guys do the investigation, is kind of what that looks like.
Yeah. What I was going to mention is, so I appreciate the council having a majority. It's something we can move forward with. There's going to be a byproduct, I'm thinking, of this that we're going to have to figure out as a city, is how do we enforce that? We can't be on every residential street as possible. If we are, we're going to need a lot bigger police force. But what that's likely going to do is the byproduct is going to be, we're going to get a lot more complaints about people speeding in residential neighborhoods. And how are we going to deal with that as a council and as a staff is the question. Because if you implement a 25 mile an hour speed limit, people are expecting you to enforce that speed limit.
Right.
And now, if you don't, now you're going to have more people saying, why aren't you enforcing that speed limit that you should be enforcing?
Yeah, we're playing
And
change, yep.
not a bad thing that we shouldn't be enforcing it, but we just have increased calls and increased volume, and then increased staffing, which is great, but that costs more money and more levy dollars. And that's probably going to be more expensive in the long term than the speed limit signs and whatever else is needed from a civil engineer aspect. And again, I'm only speaking from a perspective of staff, not as a perspective of I know anything other than that.
I think, with what I'm hearing from people is they expect those to be enforced today, where we're at.
Yep.
And to me, it takes a lot of work to get up to 30 on some of these development roads.
I think that's why they're designed that way.
Yeah, well, that's part of it, but I don't know that the enforcement, I guess I don't know that that's going to cost more. Maybe it will, but we enforce those roads as we can enforce them, whether it's 30 or 25 or the 45 and 50 roads. So that could be some of the discovery that we do. is to look at that.
I think from staff perspective, though, we just would hate to enforce this whole thing, go through the whole process, and a year later we say, it's
Still got the
too
same
much.
issues.
Yeah, same issues, same problems. It's not working, whatever. Now we just
could be.
abandon that.
It could be the same
And
issues.
again, I don't mean to that a deterrent, just as a something.
But if it
item of
brings
thought.
down the mean by 5 or whatever,
Yeah.
then, maybe it was worth it. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll do some research on investigation and stuff, and then get back to you.
Yeah, and I wanted to say too, just because, I mean, there are a few things in that Morris Leatherman survey that came out as pretty clear. I'm taking them as mandates, and this is one of them. And so I think, we need to talk about what the implications are and what the costs are, but I think that we need to pursue this in a real way.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was looking at is there's a few items in here that, some of them were the garbage thing. It was a total toss-up.
Right.
Now, it wouldn't surprise me if we had better numbers that wouldn't be such a toss-up, but we didn't, and it's a toss-up, so there's no mandate there.
The garbage thing was interesting. I was talking to a gentleman this past week, and he's like, yeah, but the city locks us in, and they just jack up their rates afterwards. It's like, well, they lock it at a rate just like you're recycling it, so it wouldn't change. Like, oh, then I'd be okay with it. So it's interesting how even like if there was, I think, I'm not saying we should act on that. I agree with you, but I think on some of those where it's a bit of a toss-up, if education was put in place, and then the survey with those questions were asked again in 2 or 3 years after, so maybe edification happened around the piece, or there was some information put before the question, I'd be interested to see, I don't want to speculate which way I think they go, but I'd be interested to see if that would change anybody's opinion on the matter.
Yeah, in that specific question, there was no information.
Yep, exactly. Yep. It's just a lot of this is just, there's a lot of information here, and I think no one here is going to ignore what residents are saying in the survey, but I also think a lot of this is, it'd be even better if we had directional data. We have one data point. So a lot of this, like the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, I think is very actionable. We had 70+% of people say it makes sense.
Right.
But we don't have, there's somewhere if for the garbage, for example, if we had done this 3 years ago and it was 20% and now it's 50%, well, now there's a big swing, right? You've got that kind of directional change to look at too. So we're looking at one data point, and so sometimes it's hard when it's that close to assume direction, in my opinion.
Okay.
Well, and we'll see some of this if we take his 3-year, spin on this.
Yeah, depending on
seeing
growth, I would think 2 to 3 years seems the right number.
Yeah.
Seems the right amount of time to do it. Only because we need to have more data points to begin with than we do later on once we're fully grown.
Yeah, start somewhere, and then I think that's kind of refines where we go to the garbage truck thing. Like, I think
Well, I think
context drives the behavior there.
There's a few of those that, I think we want to be careful on which questions we change, because then we've now changed.
Yeah.
Are they
The
comparable
baseline.
anymore? But this was one of them where I think that people were, it was inconclusive for me, and that maybe we need to work on how we ask that question the next time to try to get clearer direction.
I'm going to keep on task here. Fire Station 3 was the other question that was asked.
All right, so this one, there's 3 questions that are relevant. Question 12 was satisfaction with current level, and it was 97%. Question 27, 52% had no concern about response times. 37 had a minor concern. So that's 89% that did not have a major concern.
That had
Or
at least
said
a
it-
minor. Did not have at least a minor concern.
Minor or no concern?
Minor or no?
Yep.
And, this is a primary reason for Station 3. Question 29, the mean here, and Mr. Leatherman said the same thing, the mean is 6 a month. That doesn't get you much at all.
No, it does not.
And that's nowhere near what we would need. And he had mentioned, and this is what I'm saying, is that the fire station where we have it scheduled is premature. What I'm reading from this data is residents are not wanting it, and at the time we have it. We need a couple years to schedule this thing, and right now they're saying no. That's what I'm seeing from this. I personally think those bins were wrong. I know he disagreed with that, but I'm not sure how you can look at this distribution and not come to that conclusion. It was basically a binomial distribution, and that doesn't usually give you good information. You know that the number's somewhere between those two, but, and if you put the numbers in, it's 6 a month. So and this will get back to the long-term plan, but I am going to propose that we push that out. And I think we should push it out at least until the next survey can maybe pull that back in or leave it as it is. But I'm gonna suggest we move that out to 2031, out 3 years.
So I guess from my perspective, I think the data you're saying is clearly there. I would say 52% had no concern, which isn't honestly over surprising to me when you think about the geography. You have about half people live in the north half of the city, half people live in the south half of the city. People live in the north half of the city literally live right between 2 fire stations. It doesn't surprise me that 50% of them have no concern over the question. So that's not overly surprising to me. I think as we look at, I think the timing of it needs to be honed in. I don't disagree with that one bit. And I'm not saying 28's right. I'm not saying a different date's right, because I'm not going to say I know what the right date is. But what I will say is that my understanding from most people up here, and I don't want to speak on everyone's behalf, is as we look at where growth is going to happen, most of our growth is going to continue to happen more from the south than happens in the north. And so as we continuously add population in the south, then you're going to have more and more people down there, which are the furthest people away from a firehouse.
Yep.
And so as we think about growth and what that looks like, we need to also make a decision if we want to be reactive or proactive. And then based upon that, we need to decide when is the best timing based on us growing 200 to 250 homes a year and what that looks like and when the timing is. So I am not going to propose a specific date I think is the right date for it. I don't think just shoving it all the way out is the right answer. I don't know if 28 is the right answer. My guess is the real answer is somewhere in the middle, is what I'll say.
Well, yeah, and to your point, the more growth we have, if there's a want down there, that number will skew with the next survey.
Well,
and we'll see that.
I don't know if we always need 3 firehouses. I think we need 2 firehouses. We need 2 firehouses properly placed in the city in the long run.
Right.
Yes.
So I think that's the key here. And I think depending on what happens in Otsego, we may have a different issue on our hands that also may drive change around this item with their fire department getting up. And we've got firefighters right now in our fire force that literally, I was told, can throw a stone from their driveway and hit the new firehouse. So I hope they stay with us, but I have a feeling we're going to lose some to Otsego. And when only 3 firefighters currently live in Dayton that service that firehouse in the village, I don't know if we're going to get enough people down there to help keep that firehouse open anyways. I think that's something we also need to weigh in on is, do we just need to shift it if that ends up being the case? 'Cause if we can't have people run the firehouse, we can't keep it open, then it's not doing any good where it is either, right? And so I think that the survey gives us some direction, which is helpful. Some of the results aren't overly surprising to me, but I do think that there's more to consider than this, than just the 1 or 2, 3 survey. Well, as far as do we need the thing, two questions, there's other mitigating factors throughout the city and cities around us that I think we need to be considering as we think about the timing. But again, I don't know what the right timing is. My guess is the right timing is somewhere between 28 and 32, but I don't know what the right timing is.
Yeah, and the only reason I picked 2031 is because that gives us 3 years to do another survey. And again, if the trend there is going to strongly pull it in, then we pull it in. But that gives us that 3 year time between surveys.
I also like what people say about the school district, where they didn't preemptively build the schools and know that now they probably need, and now people are really frustrated. And so I don't want to get to the point where people are frustrated that we don't have what's needed down there, knowing that we plan on positioning a larger percentage of our growth in the south half of the state than the north half, and I'd rather be proactive and maybe slightly ahead than reactive to it afterwards. I think the
Okay,
planning
so
is a big piece.
I'm just saying that if we weren't going to react to this information, we shouldn't have asked.
I'm not saying we shouldn't react to the information.
Okay.
I think I just backed up that we should look at what the right time is between 28 and 32 are the years I put out. I'm just not saying I know what the right date is.
And, you know, it's a side issue, but the school thing, I think that boggles everybody's mind.
I don't disagree. But I don't want to be like the school district is my point. Like I don't want to be reactive to everything happening. I'd rather have some proactive or at least a thought process put into it that helps us say this is the
I
date
get
and
it.
this is the reason.
Well, right, and that's why,
I think it's a hard question to just use the survey results from. I would say to my read of this thing, there was no mandate from our residents that we need to do something and we need to do it sooner than later.
Right.
It gets harder for me in a way because you don't use the fire department every day or often or hopefully ever, right? And so how, for the average person, how are they making that judgment if they've never had an event in their neighborhood or at their place where they need an emergency response to judge how are we doing on that? So people are not concerned in general about where we are today. I think that's fair. I think that it really falls back then to us to anticipate when this is going to be, because we don't want to be behind the eight ball on this thing. My whole concern around a lot of what is being proposed around the fire stuff is the timing. It's not the answer, it's the timing of it. And it was in our packet, so I reread our latest fire report that I know nobody loves, but it's the one we have. And even there, they're talking about a phased approach to the third fire station, putting up something temporary
Smaller,
in a location,
yeah.
building the staffing around it, building the leadership for it, which they suggest in that report takes 4 or 5 years to bring somebody to a point where they should be a leader in a new situation like a new fire station. And I feel like we're moving too fast on all of this, and reinforced for me by the fact that our residents don't see it as an imminent need. So I think we really do need to give this thing a little bit of a slide and do some better planning. I've mentioned it before. We've discussed it a number of different ways that we need a strategic plan for our fire department. And it's not there. I think a lot of the pieces are there, but it's not compiled into a plan. If it is, I've not seen it, but it's not there. And I think we need to have that because we're making some important decisions. I think we're making some expensive decisions, and the timing of it isn't. I mean, we're not doing ourselves any favor by rushing this and doing it poorly. And so that's been my concern from the beginning of our budget discussions this year, is that it's too much too soon for me.
Okay.
Zach, do we know, without Seagull building a fire station, how much they're paying? Not for the equipment just for the building. Not for the fire
like
Their
trucks.
engineer's estimate is just short of 20 million.
For the building itself?
For the building
Okay,
itself.
thank you.
And all said and done, engineering, all the stuff, everything said and done with the building itself, just the building, is 21.5 million or something like that. That's their engineer's estimate. That is also it's 4 or 5 bay, overnight quarters. It's a fairly expansive station. Not saying that we don't need that or that's what we're looking at here. I'm just saying that just in general relative aspects, that's not something that we have like next door here. So.
and they're starting that when are they starting?
So they went out for bid in September. I think they needed beds back in any minute now, I think. And I think they're looking to approve in the early November, I believe. And then it'll be
27
construction.
execution, I think.
Either late this
So
year or
they're
early
doing
next
it
year.
now for 27. So.
That is correct. Yeah, so they're building it now. I think they're expecting a 1.5 to 2 year construction period, roughly.
Yeah, I was just going over Albertville's contract for fire service through them, and they have hard out dates at 2027 and anticipation that they have their
Correct,
department
yeah.
up and running.
So I think I think
Yeah.
it's end of this year, beginning of next year, which is 25.
Yeah.
And their anticipated thing is construction through 25 and probably through most of 26. And then 27, they would start their own
Yeah.
full-time Pinnacle fire model.
Yeah, I guess I just want to give my optic on, that studying versus, the fire, the expectation. I just want to make it through the lens of like, what the residents are seeing is that the fire department's knocking it out of the park, that we're meeting the expectations that they want. That's the front side of the curtain. And the thing that I've always advocated for is like, who is doing the work on the backside? And that doesn't require Fire Station 3, but to your point, David, like, it's a model change. The way that the department wants it to, like, the way that the firefighter residents, whatever you want to consider them at this point, how they feel it's conducive to their lifestyle. So, like, I see on that report, like, yeah, 90%, like, that's cool. Like, what I see is when people see the fire truck going down the road, going to Mrs. Smith's house, like, yeah, they made it, cool. But what we're not, I guess, as far as, like, this body goes, is, like, what does success look like to keep those numbers that high? Because right now, if we get to the point where, like, oh, we just need to kick that down the road, like, there's stress from those doing the work that are like, hey, a model change needs to happen because I need some more predictability in my life. And I don't know where that falls in, like, your strategic plan, but I can tell you, like, those things should happen sooner so that we can start to build out those strategic plans then at that point. Because if you run the people that are there now ragged, what you're doing is you're saying, like, hey, I'm trying to predict trying to dictate what you're doing in your free time, in a sense. Because I don't have any more to give, they don't have any more to give. I reassured myself on training last Thursday, I said, is the pressure that some of us are putting on, is it the right one? They're like, yes, this is what we want to make it work, because this is how we keep Dayton Fire going. I just wanted to put that out there. Like, I agree that, maybe the timing of Fire Station 3 could be flexible, but I think the model at which we operate to maintain a successful organization should be honed in. And those asks right now, as far as like how we staff, how we fund, how we do those longer term things, we could build ourselves as this body some more time in that planning phase. So, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, well, I get where you're coming from on it, and it is the firefighters that are top of mind here is as far as that. The core function is the service. Yeah. If we're beating up all our employees while we're doing it, that's an important question, but it's not the primary mission, right? The primary mission is to respond to the call.
Right.
And how are we doing that, and what infrastructure do we need to do that, and a staffing model that's livable for people. And I think we've heard loud and clear that nobody likes what we have. It's continuous recruiting, which I think volunteer paid on call systems are. I hear that everywhere I look into this issue, that everybody's got that problem, and it's not a sustainable model because people don't volunteer the way they used to in the past. So I get that. I get that we need to be moving in that direction. We need to provide relief to these folks that donate so much of their time to us. I just am not sure that I don't like that we're doing it without a clear plan, and that's been my objection since May or whenever we first started talking about this.
No, I hear that.
And I think we needed to take a step back, put the energy into developing that plan, because there's so many pieces of this I can't even articulate them all when we're talking about changing the staffing model and then buying a lot of new equipment and then adding the fire station and staffing that up and doing all this by 2028 does not seem realistic to me. And maybe it would if there was a plan that showed me we're doing this now, we're doing this in 6 months, we're doing this in a year. That would certainly help me. Even if I disagreed with it, I would at least understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, 100%.
And today, it just feels like things are flying in a bit randomly. I also think that I'll never understand the call system. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to say that again.
Why are we doing all call versus like station call?
And even in the report that nobody loves, they talk about looking at that very issue, that calling out by unit or by
station, demographic,
crew, or call type. And I don't think we'd be inventing those things. I think there's models that we could look at. Because to me, having been on call a good portion of my working life, it didn't go that way. And I know what it feels like to get those calls in the middle of the night. And my calls weren't to go save lives specifically, right? But it was an expected response. You're on site in 30 minutes or less for what I did.
For your corporation,
Okay?
yeah.
And what I don't get about our current model is that we have, 5-ish people that are responding to the average call, and we've got 24 people that have to make a mental and moral decision about whether they should respond or not.
Right.
And that, I don't know how that doesn't cause a whole bunch of stress for people.
Yep.
To say, do I drop what I'm doing and go on this one, or enough guys going to come? Am I leaving? I think it's
Do I go to gymnastics
a model
tonight, or
that's
do I
designed to
wait?
cause
Right.
stress
Yeah.
for people,
100%.
and we talk about work-life balance. I think that's a horrible one, to have to make that moral decision every time your pager goes off for a call, when you don't need 29 guys, right? So why are we paging 29 guys? Well, you need to get a response. You need to fill the truck, you need to, whatever it takes to go to that event. But I just, I think there's steps short of one or the other that we're not looking at this time. I think I know I'm skipping ahead here, but when it gets to the duty crew model, sounds like the right way to go to me.
Yeah, I want to keep us on task a little bit here. Sorry. We went up from Fire Station 3, now we're talking about the fire department, which is good and related, but not on task. I think the general idea.
I agree with you. I'm going a ways off here. I think it all plays together.
I don't disagree.
I don't disagree with you at all.
I agree. It all plays together. I just want to make sure we're staying on task with the question. And not because I want to deter the comments and discussion to happen. But.
What are your thoughts on Firehouse 3, Scott?
Oh, I didn't know you guys wanted an opinion. To me, someday we're going to need one. Yes, I don't disagree. And someday it should be in the south end of town. I don't disagree with that either. The major eye hole here is $6 a month. Doesn't buy you anything. I mean, you're talking $70 or $80 a month to build what it's going to take to build. And I don't even know if that covers it. And we know they're not going there. I mean, nobody wanted to, John's got in his report that they're willing to spend 10 to 30, and I didn't see that in the report. To me, it was under 10 that they would throw in there. So, and I've, for 2 or 3 years, I've been 20, 30 or after. I've been there all along. To me, it takes more people to defray the cost. And 6, 7, 8 years from now, we'll get more people. I mean, that's going to happen. And a real huge issue is in 4 or 5 years, actually 4, we're going to have a buku load of industrial money coming in here. I mean, not a buku load, but substantially a lot more money coming in from the industrial buildings on the TIF that expires in 2030, I think it is.
Although I think
29 or 30.
a lot of that's already spent too, so.
Well,
I'm trying not to pre-spend money that we don't have yet.
What happened on the 2028 schedule is it?
the 2028 schedule, I mean, this whole fire station in there's $30 million in that 2028 thing that needs to be worked on. And that's going to cost these
40,
people
isn't it?
huge money.
No, I think it's
I think
it's 35.
It was 35 until I seen somewhere that we were talking about, in here, 10 million for a city hall instead of 5.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, there's your 40.
No,
Correct,
yeah.
So,
I think it was 20 million for the fire station. It's 10 million for city hall. That's $30 million.
and then
There's a $2.5 million expansion of public works.
and then there's 5 for the river.
Yeah, well, the event center we kind of already discussed tonight. It sounds like that's a no-go,
that-
which is again that's.
But I mean, the river,
That's-
we know that's 5 million, and that's about that time frame. So
Yeah, and that was coupled in the
But
fact
you
that we
took
do
that-
one large. What
It's
do you want
just
to call
project.
it?
It's just, it never ends.
Bond, but that would be. It would only reason to do that would be to get over. There's certain benchmarks that you hit for different tiers, and you get a discounted rate for interest.
I mean, I understand.
That's
the whole-
why it was coupled there. But other
The
than
whole
that-
reason to put that in 2028 is because that's when the ladder comes due, and if you're going to bond 3 or 4 million for the ladder, why not bond?
there was
30
the
million?
other. And
I
actually,
think we
it's
can
not-
pay for the ladder without having to.
Huh?
I think between now and then we can probably save enough money to pay for the ladder.
It shocked the heck out of me, but we'll see.
Well, and saving money and it wasn't just the ladder, it was the tender with it, right? So that was almost $3.5 million.
Yeah.
Tender's paid for as long as we continue on the long-term plan that we're planning on.
Okay.
So I personally don't have any objection to pushing it out. The other thing we heard at the open house, and what's a little bit puzzling, and here it is again, is we heard that this fire station might happen in 2026.
That's incorrect.
That-
I will say on the record that's
Where that
wrong.
come from?
I don't know
You
how
know where it came from. You
couldn't
were
even,
there.
I was
even
there
if
to
we
hear that.
even if we want, there's no way that we could even do it in
Well.
2026. So
Uh,
the earliest it would be, and again, the earliest is we need to plan, we need to have all this stuff done. The earliest it could be even physically is 28. And again, the year should, we try to keep it out, I think it was the idea to always keep it out 5 years, just to keep it on the horizon, but not set it in stone. And we just used 28, but it was pushed out, I think it was put in there in 21 or 2020 and 28. And then just kept in 28 because it wasn't near enough to
Right.
talk about until this year, and all of a sudden now we're talking about it a lot, which I think is a good thing to talk about. So.
The other interesting fact was at that open house also is now that all of a sudden the word is out that there's a fire station on 117th, nobody wants it there.
Well, I talked to a couple
Yeah.
people there, and their concern was more the noise.
Noise,
And
yeah.
once
There's not that much noise.
once we explained to those people that were there with the concerns how we handle this firehouse and how we don't just
One,
turn
yeah.
the sirens on as they're in the firehouse on the way out, like they're not just waking everyone up in the middle of the night unless they absolutely have to. They seemed a lot more okay with it at that point in
I
time.
don't think
talked to them.
that's, go ahead, Paul.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just to let you know, state law requires
Yep.
if you have your lights on, you have to have your siren on.
Yep.
Yep.
By
The
state
instant
law.
you come out of that door.
So if you're telling residents that you can't,
Yeah.
it is a state
Yep.
statute.
That's what I was told we're doing currently, is that we don't just turn the lights on or the sirens on when we're pulling out of the driveway.
It's best practice is what it is. It's, like, I'm not going to say we are, we aren't. Severity of the call dictates on, those kind of things. But whoever's in that driver's seat may live in that neighborhood, may know somebody, and they say, nope, not until I get out to a major roadway. There's, without a policy, without any of that stuff, like, I just,
Well,
we're human, we're neighbors too. in
If
that
there's a
sense.
state law,
If there's a
and to
state
me,
law,
if you
that's-
don't follow that state law, you might be liable for something.
Sure, but at the end of the
Yeah,
day,
exactly,
we're not putting in an airport here.
No.
At our 600 calls a year rate, which we know will grow,
Yep.
but that's 1.6 calls a day.
Yeah.
Out of somewhat divided between ultimately 3 stations.
Yeah.
So this is not, this is,
That's not the make
No,
or
yeah, it's
break.
also common
Yeah.
for them to be in residential neighborhoods. Like when I lived in Coon Rapids, almost every single one was in a residential
Yeah.
neighborhood. It's very common
Yeah.
for them to be there. So this isn't something that other cities haven't found a way to work through as well.
No, if we want to, reduce response times and, have a functioning organization that's successful, like peculiar placement of this stuff is definitely closer to the residents, closer to the responses, closer.
Well,
all
it
that
does
stuff.
behoove us, though, if an opportunity shows up in the industrial area, or let's say DDL says, hey, I got this, do something with it.
Yep.
Yeah, it seems like we should take advantage of that, but.
Yeah,
I think we should always be looking for those
you're going to
opportunities,
weigh
yeah.
pros and
Yeah.
cons. Sorry, I'm not to try to. I know Zach wants to stay on.
Just trying to stay on
par,
task.
so-
That's it. Just stay on task.
All right,
That's it.
So, okay, so I guess, like I said, my deal would be to push that out to 2031.
So do we want to move beyond the questions? Is there a specific ask you have around this before we get to the next item, which is the long-term plan?
Yeah, I was going to say we should.
Yeah, that's what I'm also trying to
Yeah.
figure out is I know that they're connected and understand that, but my questions are moving on to the next item then.
Yep, we can do that.
Okay, so we're done with this item.
I think so.
Any other question for the survey? Again, we can always come up with, if you guys have things that you want to talk about with the survey later on, please talk about it, bring them up, and we can, it gives us direction for staff level, and we can move forward.
That survey had things about the parks. When we go out for the RFP, it might be good information to put in that as well.
Yeah, we do that.
Okay,
All right, good?
on to item
Item
L.
L, just back a few years. All right, I'm going to start long-term plan, so this is going to be focused heavily on utility funds first, and then I want to get back to pavement management, because that one had a ton of changes, and that's all based on the fact of the pavement management plan and the intersection study. which affect a lot of things. That means a lot of dollars are going out of this place. We got to figure out how to pay for them. Again, not trying to solve the entire world's problems for the next 10 years, but need to most really talk about them. So I'm going to discuss the last one first, which is the sewer fund, because it's also the easiest. We did get increased. We went through and had engineering go through all of the costs related to all the projects. And then if there was any portions of the projects that were related to a street, that would also be a sewer or water or a stormwater project. Let's get all those updated as well. So you'll see a lot of red numbers in this one. It's the last page that you have. So second to last page, I should say. And those all red numbers again are in. Anything that's in red has been updated from last year, so it's a different number. The only two changes that we have for ads are related to Marty's requests of having an enclosed trailer with an emergency tools and supplies ready to go for when the guys are on call. They can come in, hook a trailer up, and go. Related to emergency tools and supplies. We do not have one of those currently, and so it would be nice for the guys to have from what Marty has mentioned to me.
What's an example of that?
Yeah.
What's an example of an emergency tool?
So what would be just a regular enclosed trailer, but we would have all the supplies and tools in that trailer to go, and it would be for fire hydrant repairs, sewer, water.
Be like a maintenance trailer or something, so yeah.
Say again?
You just have, like a maintenance trailer where you have all your equipment.
Yeah,
whatever.
so it's
Okay.
just ready to go when we need it.
And you already have all the tools, correct?
We have some of the tools. We would have to get some additional tools to just stock that up, because those tools that we have are general use tools. We would want all the tools to be set up in this trailer ready to go with it.
And it's a trailer, not like a box truck. I know Minnetonka used to use like they had a trailer hooked up to it, so the tools were in the truck, and then they had like the box that they would use when they go into the pit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, the whole thing would run out, and then they just had a backhoe that they would use. And
You're talking a 16, 20-foot enclosed tandem axle trailer.
like that.
Yeah,
Not?
something along those lines. Yeah.
$6,000-7,000. That's about all they are.
Well,
But your 20 will include some tools too.
yeah, it's going to include a lot of tools. There's going to be specialist parts for hydrants and all that good stuff in
But
there
that's
as
its
well.
general use. That's my
Yeah.
Well, it says, yeah, with tools and supplies, so yeah.
With tools and supplies. That's correct.
Okay.
The other one that is new this year on the sewer is the sewer main bulkheading, and I'm not going to try to explain it
is
because I
that?
tried to listen to Jason and I couldn't understand it. Something in River Hills, there's a main that goes to one spot, needs to go to another spot.
So when the original part, River Hills, was done, there was a portion that had to be force-fed the sewer out of the lift station to get to the gravity part of the network. Once Iron Gardens came in, the line was extended, so we don't need to force it that way anymore. It can gravity down straight into the extension. So we need to go in and bulkhead that force main off, basically.
Cap it.
Yeah, just cap it and take it out of service.
There you go. That's layman terms.
All right.
That's what I got. And then the other ones, again, are Territorial Road, which is a portion that we're talking about next year, and I mentioned that as part of the projects for next year as an assessment project. And then the 113th Avenue is pushed out to 2027 just based on responses from council this past year when we talked about doing those projects. So that's it in sewer.
When you've got just a question, and this applies not just this line item, but all of them, when you look at like the territorial road improvements,
Yep.
you've got 50% developer and 50% assessment.
Yep.
So none of that's charged to the city then.
That's correct.
So why don't we just put zero in the, like, where are you accounting for this? Because this always, like, my problem is residents will sometimes look at this and I'll get an email like, why are we paying for this? It's like, well, they are. You have to look over here, so it can be confusing. So can you just help anyone looking at this understand why there's a number there when it costs this zero to the city?
And that's the paid, the paid by is supposed to help you do that, but
Yeah.
I think the problem is you guys like to see money coming in and going out
Yep.
and not just poof.
Yep.
It bypasses, right? That's
And
the
I know
whole issue.
where it is on the next page.
I do.
I get it.
I
but
get the same question.
I get this question often, so it's an opportunity as we
Yeah.
go through all of this just now to talk about why we do it that way.
So the reason why I do it that way is for cash flow purposes. So we're able to cash flow the projects if needed.
Okay.
So if I have it here as a project and I don't have a cost for it, I'm not allocating those cash flows in the future to say that project's gonna come in, I'm gonna need to make sure I have X number of dollars available in investments at that time so that we can pay for that project. If I have a zero number here, it says, oh, it's gonna be paid for by somebody else, I don't have to worry about it.
It's a wishful
And then
note.
we have to pay, it's bigger than 380, it'd be $1 million or $2 million. And I don't have an investment ready to go for that, because I'm investing our dollars in the future to try to get our best interest possible. If those projects move or the dollars aren't there, then I have to then grab an investment early, which means now we're taking a loss on that investment because I'm not holding it to maturity. So that's why it's there. I don't care if we want to put it as a zero, like make the right-hand side the cost of the city, that's fine.
It
But I
doesn't
just
matter
need
to
make
me,
sure-
I just wanted to make sure that if people were listening and trying to follow
Yep.
along at home, they understood why.
The
That's
reason
all.
why is
Yeah.
only for cash flow purposes related to when we're projecting out costs of a project
Thank you.
and making sure the dollars are there.
I would venture to say, seeing as how not too many people want to carve pumpkins, not too many people pay.
I surprisingly get a lot of questions from residents on this.
I hope people are paying attention, but again,
There are people that.
yeah, the paid by column is what we have there, but again, if we want to create, as long as the cost is there, that's all I'm looking at. So if we want to have the right-hand columns from 2024 to 2034 be just the cost to the city, that's fine by me for, but it's just the cost that has to be in there for the full for on the project, but. We can talk about adjustments, we've done them in the past, and I'm happy to do them, I just want to make sure all the council's on board before I
I'm-
make a change, and you're like, what the heck is that?
I'm okay with it, just as long as we have the paid by. It's just, then you have to explain to the resident.
Yes, it does make more work for me on the cash flow side of things, on the second page, to show you how the cash flows
Yeah.
work with the project. Because then I have to move things back and forth and left and right, and I've had it happen in the past where I didn't pull things forward, or I have
Yeah.
50%.
It's an opportunity for Google.
Yeah, it's fine, I'm asking for a change, it was just more.
Yep.
No, I think, the information's there.
Yep.
Yes.
You know, already.
It is
It's
there.
just how quickly, and I get tripped up on it too. You know, we're not on that page, but I saw,
Yep,
you
this
know,
one here.
665,000 for Diamond Lake drawdown, and I'm like, what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then another 400. I have no
the other Diamond
information
Lake
on this,
something.
where'd that million come
Yeah,
from?
yeah.
You know,
Those are
and then, well, then I read closer, and it's like, okay, that's the watershed.
Do you have any question on the sewer portion of things? I'm gonna move to stormwater, so that's a few pages ahead of it, and the reason why I'm doing these is because there's different magnitude of the projects. So I wanna do storm sewer next, or stormwater next. This is your cost related to the drawdown. I believe it's would be the sixth page back from the back. I don't know what
You're right.
page number it is, but.
Hey,
27.
There you go, page 27, there you go. So a lot of these change, and these are based on what we're hearing from the watershed. For requests, it's like the French Lake drawdown, the Diamond Lake drawdown. To tell you the truth, I don't know what any of those mean or what the project is, I have no idea. That's a great question for Jason, who's not here.
Jason.
Hey, Jason.
So we can talk about those later
So-
on. Again, it would be a split cost, 25-75, and we could also have our 25% covered by a grant. So that's what we'd like to do.
Oh,
if we
that sounds
can,
good.
Okay.
Would be to have our portion done as a grant, and we are meeting with the grant person for Stantec, talking about all these projects that we have on Thursday of this week, so.
So can I
Yep,
waste 2 minutes of time here?
fire away.
Marty, are you aware of this drawdown? I mean, are they doing what I think it means? They're gonna drain the lake?
I haven't had any information about them draining the lake.
Okay.
So I'm not aware of that part of it.
It just seems like that much money, they're doing something significant. And the alum, I think that's just a treatment.
That is
But,
a treatment
Yeah.
for us.
but the drawdown,
No coil or
Yeah, the
whatever.
drawdown sounds like they're going to drain the lake.
yeah, I'm assuming.
Google
they're
says
gonna-
it's a draining of a lake.
Yeah, that's what it is. And for,
Google AI.
you know,
And
600
I don't
grand.
know what the purpose of that is for. Like I said, these are
Why?
these are coming directly from our engineering team, from their communicating with the watershed. I don't know what the purpose of those. These weren't on the projects
To
before.
kill bullheads
Sure.
and carp. So,
Yeah.
okay,
Oh, sure. And they
I'm good.
Make it deeper at that same time.
that would be cool.
It would be nice to
I mean, they do it
know
to
more
the Elk River.
about
I
it
mean,
since it's happening next year.
They did.
I would agree. So I asked
And
the
they'll
same
hunt
question you guys did, and
Yeah,
I believe they're
I
working
don't care.
trying to get the explanations for
Don't
me.
we
But
have a representative on the watershed district?
Yes, we do.
yep, you will see him at the next council meeting.
Oh,
Good deal.
Take notes.
So, like I said, these are all updated projects. These projects are not set in stone. They're just the planned projects. Again, trying to figure out if we can do different projects here or there, and we will always use grants if we can. So,
And your confidence is pretty good we'll get grants for these?
I will say that if we don't get grants, the chances of us doing the project are probably small.
Okay.
Or smaller.
Smaller.
And if we get grants.
Okay.
Yeah, if we can utilize grant dollars, because there is a lot of grant programs that I don't even think people apply for.
Yeah.
That we can
For
probably
waterways.
get, and it's fairly easy to do it. It's just
Okay.
getting the process. Any questions on the stormwater fund? There is, again, portions of the stormwater fund that are related to certain street projects, and the reason for that is to allocate different costs out to different portions of the projects.
Right.
Okay, stormwater overall looks fairly healthy too into the future for now. Could be something we need to look into in the future as stormwater requirements continue to change for us as the city. We may have to look into different ways of funding it, as long as, if we have development, we don't have to worry about it, but if we don't have development for a while, we may need to look at other ways to fund stormwater projects, because they come up more than what we want to believe. For example, if we are to reconstruct a road, as in take all the pavement up, take all the dirt up, if you do more than X percentage of inches or percentage of the thing, you now then have to add stormwater ponding that you may not have had before. I don't know.
Just for updating the road.
Just for updating the road,
Okay.
which isn't a problem for us now as a young and fruitful city, but when we become older and have to redo those roads, that's going to become an issue.
Is it just because they're adding curb and gutter now to it? Or?
Nope, they've already curb and gutter in
New
there
rules?
before.
No.
Something new rules
It's a new
related to
rule.
percentages and overflows and percentage of 100-year rain events. And
That would have came in on the south end of Zanzibar had we
Yep.
waited.
We waited, and at all for that one, we got in just before the nick of
Yeah.
time, and they considered gravel still as an impervious.
Right.
Or, no, considered gravel a impervious surface.
And I would
Now
like
they're
to know
considering
how they
gravel as
figured that out.
possibly a pervious surface when you're redoing a roadway.
Oh,
So
that's interesting.
pervious as in requires drainage.
Correct. Impervious. As in
Impervious.
required.
Impervious. That's correct. Okay.
Okay, we'll move to the water fund, which should be the fourth page back, or two back from where you were just at.
29.
On 29, there you go. And the reason why I'm looking at water fund next is because this one is, again, the most prevalent related to dollars wise, is because as our continued growth happens, we need to continue to fund new items related to the water department, and they are expensive. The other half of the enclosed trailer with the tools and supplies is in there as well, so this is also
other
water
half?
and sewer, so.
Is this going to be another trailer?
Nope, same trailer.
Oh, okay.
There's just half the dollars would come from the sewer fund, half the dollars would come from the water fund to be able to get all the tools. I don't know if it'll be exactly 20 grand. My guess is that's just a guess number.
You mean
For 40
40
grand.
So
Forty
why,
for everything?
why are you're after 40?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what that.
Oh, we didn't say
got-
it that way just 10 minutes ago.
Well, it's just
Well,
allocated.
now it's, yeah.
We got the
You didn't
numbers
ask
from Otsego, what they paid for their trailer out
It's like
there.
pulling teeth.
Okay.
So that's what we're going off. I mean,
So don't go there.
by the time we
Tools
get
ain't
to,
cheap.
by the time we get to getting actual cost, it might come down. That's what our aim would be, but we put up 40 in based on what we were told by Otsego to budget for it.
Okay.
And 20 would come from the water department, and 20 would come from the sewer department.
Okay.
One comment I have, and this is not a change on here, but we have 25 million for a South Dayton water treatment plant.
I wanted to get to that, yes.
And it's not, I mean, I know we kicked it out to 32. I don't know that we should even have it on here because
No.
we're not.
It shouldn't.
So we want
The
to,
water tower, I understand that Maple Grove might require us to do that.
Well,
so I
and
think
pressure may
that's-
require us to do it.
Yes,
Mm-hmm,
right.
But that's a different, yeah.
Capacity.
Yeah.
so the reason,
You have that.
Yep.
from
That
staff's
piece of it,
pers-
but
from
we don't
staff's,
have any current plans to move forward with South Dayton, I mean, separating from the Maple Grove water system. And that contract goes through 2035, so I just don't see where we need this on there. It's not a, I think it creates confusion instead of being a tickler for planning.
Correct.
Sure. So
Yeah,
from
you
our
have to-
perspective as staff, if that agreement only goes to 2035, we need to hedge our bets as a city to make sure that we are funded and able to continue water resources if that agreement is not extended. So that is why it is on here. It's because as long as Maple Grove is not have an extended agreement with us, which we have asked to redo, and I think they've not said, well, it's out in 2035, don't worry about it.
Right.
We'd prefer to have it extended That's our goal as a city, staff. But without that agreement being extended, we have to plan to provide the same water service, or at least something comparable for that area. And the reason why it's in 2032 is because it takes roughly 3 years to construct a water treatment plant.
We will not get it comparable at that price.
I hope we don't, and I hope we don't ever need it, but that is why it is on here from the
Okay.
staff's perspective. It's not because we're pushing for that or want to show it as this big ominous thing that we have to pay for. It's the plan to be able to suffice if we don't get an agreement from the world that says they want to extend it.
Can we add that to the item name?
Um,
Something about.
Per contract
yeah.
agreements.
Yeah,
Sure.
if contract, Maple Grove not renewed or something like
All
that.
else fails.
Yeah, but because I was gonna say just add a column that's
Hail Mary.
unassigned, but that doesn't fit this need either. I think
don't-
if we add it to the item, I think it's helpful
I
for
don't
people to understand.
presume that Maple Grove won't extend it, and I have nothing that says that they won't.
They would be
But
silly not to.
I would rather be conservative and say, here's the number it is going to be to suffice for that area
Yeah.
for water, than to say, oh, we're fine, Maple Grove loves us, we don't want to do anything. And then in 2 years, Maple Grove says, nope, we're not doing that, and we have nothing on this plan for how we're paying for that stuff.
Yeah, and I haven't looked at this recently, but I did read their comp plan at some point in the past when we were more, I think when we were doing
Had
the
some
test
spare
well
time.
or something.
Yep.
That they don't make any mention of separating from these agreements with us and Corcoran. The only mention of anything related to Dayton was the potential for us to need to add a water tower.
That is correct, yep, so we have a meeting with Maple Grove in a month, 3 weeks, with them, so we did meet with them a couple months ago, 3 months ago, related to staying on their water system, and they needed to do some analysis based on how much our draw is, how much they anticipated us for having forward draw on their system, what they needed to do, because they're planning on looking at softened water through their water treatment plants, they need to plan that. So they were doing some analysis, I think it was 3 or 4 months ago now, and wanted to get back with us, so they're meeting with, I think it's like middle of November that we're meeting with Marty and I. And hopefully that will then spur us to have
That'll spur something, yeah.
conversation.
Yeah,
Well,
wanted-
let's extend this agreement so we know we're both on the same path and we're going to
Yeah.
be together, which then eliminates all of those items.
Just look for an evergreen agreement. We don't have to worry about it ending.
I don't know if they would do that, but we could ask.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I would think they would, but I don't know. So this water tower,
Yes.
is that, I mean, given the numbers on that, that looks like it was actually calculated fairly
Yep.
accurately.
That's correct.
What about time-wise? Because that puts it right after that 2028 behemoth. So, and now we got another 6 million.
So that would be paid for out of a totally different fund and we would not need to
That's
be
true.
bonded for.
Yep, but, yeah, I mean, we'd still have to make sure that we had plenty of water,
Plenty of funds.
whatever, money, water, in there.
Yep.
And 2029 is really a good date,
That's a good date.
because that seems kind of early.
It's based on usages that we're seeing currently in trends.
Okay.
We could probably utilize a water tower today if it was, a developer wanted to pay for one because they needed one related to a development that they needed. We could probably
Right.
utilize one today, but there's no downside for us to have a water tower.
Well, I thought it was just really there for fire.
It's there for fire suppression. It's also there for draws, like if they have
Yeah, if they have
lots
a
of
significant draw,
users on the
Sprinklers
system, and sprinkler systems. Because right now, like the Q's building, for example, if you drive by that building, there's a giant water tank sitting outside.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is there's not enough pressure on the Maple Grove system to fulfill that sprinkler system need to meet fire code.
If it all
So
went
they
off,
have
yeah.
to have a separate system. If we had a water tower that would supply enough pressure, they wouldn't need that. They call it a cistern or something.
It's a
Cistern, yeah. Well, the only reason I mention it is because it is in 2029, and that's another big hitter.
Yep,
So,
that is
okay.
correct.
That tank you're talking about on the cubes, though, the cubes paid for it.
They did. Oh yeah. It wasn't on
So,
us. Yep.
who cares if the building?
Correct, but if we had a water tower, they would have not had to do that for that project.
I don't care if they have to do it.
Maybe what he's
It's
saying
their
is,
bill.
if we had a big business come in and say, hey, we have to do this, it's gonna cost us $1.5 million to build this water tank. Do you just wanna partner now? We'll give you the $1.5 million to build the water
It's just
tower.
like
You guys pay the million.
pulling the water on territorial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
The question I have, and maybe I missed it, maybe I missed it. Is there anything on here for a water tower for the village?
Yep, it's the Northwest Water Tower.
Thank you.
Oh, there it is, yep.
That's what I was.
And that is planned for a grant.
Yeah, I said we had it funded for almost, but it fell
almost.
through, came down the way.
Close.
Well, it's been,
We had two.
At some point,
we
it
had
was-
2.14 something million in the last bonding bill, and I
At-
missed it by 30 seconds.
At some point, that was factored into the water rates. And that was about, do you want to say about 10 years ago?
Yeah, it went into the wellhead treatment plant. That went way over the budget that we thought. So it wasn't lost dollars. It just was reallocated. Yeah. So, anything else on water? Again, there's a lot of updated numbers here. Anything that's in red was actually updated, and an actual cost was given to us by engineering. Anything in black, which is the ones that are close and the ones that are really far out, those are just ballpark numbers. We didn't do an actual.
Does the wellhead treatment for that well, does that include already having the tower, or is that
Yes.
without the tower?
No, that's with the tower.
Okay. I thought it was way cheaper if we had the tower, like
I'm
significantly
hoping it's not that much actually. but-
Because that was with all the pressure tanks they had to put in, I thought was the $7 million.
It was over 8 million, but again, they're using inflationary costs to
okay.
in for 26.
It did bring it down, but it didn't bring it down the same rate that the cost of
As we
the,
thought it would, okay.
yeah.
But it did bring the maintenance down, I will tell you right now, because the number of pumps that were in that thing.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
The maintenance on those things is going to be
Yeah.
incredible, if we had to do that in the process.
Okay.
Anything else on water? Again, healthy fund, which is good, that's a good thing to have, and that means that we're able to do projects later on. Last one is pavement management, and this is probably going to take us a long time, so I don't know how long you want to hit on it and such. But we're all night if you want to talk about it. A lot of increased numbers, a lot of new numbers in red. It's probably the middle of your packet because I gave you the entire long-term plan.
25,
There you go, page 25. So Marty, myself, and Jason, and Nick, who you guys, I don't know if you've met Nick or not. Nick is our kind of second. Lauren was our previous person that we had. She was replaced by Nick. Nick went through all of these costs and all of these projects, gave us updated numbers, how much would it cost in here and there, based on the pavement management plan that we used to get the, when we did the pavement management plan, we didn't pick a certain amount every year. We wanted to get to 75% or
Yep.
PMI or whatever it was of 70% or whatever. So they went through all the projects, we grouped them together based on as close as we could to when the pavement management plan had identified, but we also tried to get them closer together. So, for example, 2026, if you went back to the pavement management plan, it might not have had all of the projects that were staying there, but those were within a year or two. But we tried to group them by location, so we could try to get them closer from mobilization costs. Because those mobilization costs end up being so much money for those projects that's what ends up eating into a lot of the dollars. So, 2025, South Diamond Lake Road, we already identified that. Again, 1.4 million is in the budget. A chip and fog seal would cover the difference of the costs. And again, 550 is a general number. Doesn't mean we'd spend 550. It would be try to get as many roads as we can done with a chip and fog seal in 2025. If it's not 550, it's not 550. But in 2026, the main ones are going to be Holly Lane, which is from the Parkway south or towards King Solutions, and then 125th Avenue and East French Lake Road, which if you've driven that road at all, they tell you there's patches on East French Lake Road. Although that you could discuss whether that's going to be there long term or not.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
It is a
Yeah.
very, very patch road, and it's actually pretty well traveled. Specifically now that the Parkway's open, and now you go down to the Parkway and you get a 117th Avenue, you take a left on East French Lake Road to hit Zanzibar North.
Yeah.
It is pretty well traveled. So we have I think that one was planned out a little further out, and we said we should probably move that one closer just based on traffic. But again, also trying to get them condensed in a certain area. And then chip and fog seal of 250, and that's just to get us too close. I think it's right around $2 million for that year that they were identified in. And so we'd be.
That East French Lake Road deal,
Yes.
that has to be a complete reconstruct for that kind of, for that number. Has to be.
1.8
$3.5 million bucks?
That's Dayton Parkway Extension.
Oh,
That is the portion, that's only developer cost, and that's just
Yeah,
the portion
okay.
we're just guessing. We
Okay.
have no clue.
totally different.
What it would
piece.
cost to be between the Parkway and 117th where it sits today, extend it north to East
Yeah.
French Lake Road. 1.81, I
1.8.
think is mill and overlay.
That has,
Because it's Holly Lane and 125th and East French Lake Road, which is quite a jaunt. If you go all the way from Fernbrook, all the way across over to Dean's Pumpkins and all the way down to Territorial is that whole stretch we're talking about redoing.
It's gonna be the equivalent of what we're doing on South Diamond
Pretty
Lake next
close,
year.
yep. And then Holly Lane from the Parkway towards Woodby Quick Trip at the.
It's gotta be over 5 miles then.
It's pretty close, yep.
Well, South Diamond's 5 miles, and that's
Yeah.
1.3, 1.4.
My guess is, 125th Avenue from Fernbrook underneath Zanzibar to Dean's Pumpkins and then straight down.
Oh, it's from
Got it.
Fernbrook all
From
the way.
Fernbrook
all the way,
Oh,
all the way over
okay,
and
yeah.
then down
Easy.
to Territorial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why, I wonder why that road is in such, because that, I think that was new in 2004?
125.
Which road, just for clarity, Mr. Mayor?
East,
East French Lake Road?
East French Lake, 125th all the way down. It
125th
used to be
was
dirt.
redone in 2008?
Is it 8 that late? I thought it was earlier, but
I
it
would
doesn't
say
matter.
It's probably in that 08 area somewhere, 10.
I thought it was 08 or 09.
So why is it already, yeah, okay.
Combines and tractors.
Leo,
I'm just gonna say combines and tractors.
Do you want to assess that
we
one?
can,
or-
I'll hear from that tomorrow.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Okay, let's move on.
So that's in 2026. ADA compliance you're seeing coming into play in 2026 as well, and I'm going to pass one off to Marty. I think that's just a request from SRF.
Yeah. So some time ago, we were required to do a study to bring all of our handicapped accessible sidewalks and stuff up to code. SRF did a study and they came up with a number for us, and we split it out over a number of years to get the work done. So that's where those numbers come from. I think the total project cost was somewhere in the $2.5 million for all of the upgrades that we need to do to pavement and install, the domes and stuff like that for safe crossings for ADA compliance.
You will see those for a number of years.
Yeah, see they go all the way up to 2032.
Yeah.
So.
In terms of clarity for reading, where a project like this continues on through multiple years, why can't that all be on the same line?
Oh, yeah.
Which ones are you talking about?
Like the
Well,
ADA
just
one.
use
Yeah.
the ADA thing, it's there, and then, 5 lines down, it's there again in the next year.
I
and-
can do that if you'd like. It just would, instead of being right now it's just automatically formula entered in. So whatever's in that column that's underneath cost automatically just goes to whatever year is assigned in the replacement year. It's just an automatic formula thing. I can
Oh, I
adjust
see what you're
that.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would actually be good, because you'd still have it in every year just going across, and you could just see it.
The
but
question is right now it's kind of stepped.
Yeah.
You're scaled by year.
If you did that as one line, when would you like to add that? Do you want it at the top? Do you want it at the bottom? Because it wouldn't be stepped anymore. It would just be all the way across, which is fine. Doesn't matter.
He's
Yeah, I
saying the
don't know that
numbers would-
matters.
yeah.
Yeah,
They wouldn't step in it.
because I just look at the column anyways.
No, it would be easier for me to read when I see it,
Sure.
and then I see it again, and I think, well,
Okay.
didn't we just do that?
Yeah.
So really, the cost of the project is all of those numbers
It is, yeah.
together, and it would be easier to understand that if they were all in the same.
Okay. I will make that adjustment. I will probably move that to the top line item just because it makes the most sense to me on the top. That way it's on, you can see it all the way across. But I'm not
It'll
gonna make
reduce
that
the number of lines too, won't make it as.
It will not make it as long. No.
There's a bunch of those.
That is correct.
Good suggestion.
The next one that I want to just make sure you touch base on is an intersection improvement. So we want to talk about that's Rush Creek Parkway in Fernbrook. That's the first intersection that was identified as the projects and the scopes.
Can I ask a question on that?
That is a pretty heavy project, yes, sir.
That project wasn't listed in the top 3 worst intersections in the city, correct? Was not.
No, but the other ones that were going to be taken care of with county projects in
Well,
the years
taken
after.
care of is a loose term, right? So,
What is,
funded by.
Corrected and funded by the county in future years, so there's no point in us redoing them sooner, even though they're number 1, 2, and 3.
but my thought was if they're going to come back and redo those roads between now and 29, I think was the year, whatever they had on their slide, wouldn't it make sense for us at that time to try to get them to do one of those 3 intersections since they're the 3 worst?
And we would do that, that's
Yeah.
correct. So like, I think the number 1 is North Diamond Lake Road and Dayton River Road, and that's going to be redone in 2029.
Okay, so I'm just further. Okay, thank
So,
you.
yeah, in 2029, that's when North Diamond Lake Road and Dayton River Road intersection gets redone. We've suggested a roundabout there, that's what we are.
oh,
going
they
to
have
do.
not decided.
They have not
What
decided.
else
'cause
would they
it's
do?
A stoplight.
Oh, county?
Yep.
Yeah.
so.
No, I've no idea breath on
It's
that.
significantly cheaper for a
Oh, yeah.
stoplight than it
Yep.
is for a roundabout, so, but we have enough, I think, land around there. We've also worked with the Park District, and they are amendable to give us some land in the northwest corner there. To be able, or
Yeah.
not us, give up the county.
Yeah, and then we'll have to
land
sell
to be able to do it, so.
them 3 or 4 more properties, is that?
Yeah. So that's why,
What is-
they may have been taken care of in a future project by the county, which is
Okay.
why they didn't get addressed by us sooner.
Okay, thank you.
What was the estimate here based on? Was this also roundabout, lights? Roundabout.
Roundabout.
Okay.
Didn't the developer try to get a roundabout there to begin with, and we couldn't get it done?
Yes, he did.
Oh, the Rush Creek Parkway in
Yeah, Rush
Fernbrook?
Creek
Yeah.
Parkway, yeah.
Yeah, so what, I'm just curious, and I think a roundabout there makes sense. It would have made sense before.
Yeah.
What has changed all of a sudden that makes us think that the parties that said, nope, you can't do that before, are all of a sudden gonna say yes now? Like, have we been having conversations with them, and they're like,
We've
yep,
been-
nope, we're way
we-
more open to it now than we were 5
Yes.
years ago? And if
we've
we
had-
said, great, now you cover the developer's costs, because you should have let them do it when they wanted to do it?
Which is why we have a 50/50
Okay.
cost in there.
And I think they're getting hammered by calls because Rush Creek in the morning is backed
It
up
was terrible.
to stack up.
That was
on
terrible.
it.
And the
Right
vision
there,
on the
it was,
intersection
yeah.
is not great.
Yeah.
It puckers
So
bullets
that-
for intersection.
That is why we're putting a 50/50 cost
Okay.
split in there.
But we think I just want to make sure if it's on here and someone sees it, that we have some
We have
thought
some-
that the county is going to say yes to this, and they're not going to.
some hope.
Well, hopefully more than hope. Like an email conversation that says, yes, we'd be open to this idea, we should talk about it more. Even that is enough, I think, to get it on here.
Yeah.
What I don't want to have us say is, we'd love the county to do this, it's on here, and we get to it, and everyone's expecting it, and all of a sudden it never happens because we didn't do any due diligence.
We
the
won't
purpose
guarantee
on it,
the
yeah.
year.
Okay.
But we have had continued conversations, and that one is of the intersections that we studied.
Yep.
That was our utmost importance that isn't gonna already be taken care of
Okay.
on a different project that is identified by the county.
Thank you.
So, that's why it's at 27, is because that's when we feel like is the soonest we could probably push the county to get it done with assistance, after they.
When do we think the roundabout will, assuming everything moves forward, DCM Farms, what year do we think the roundabout will go in at 113th?
2026 or 2027.
Okay.
114.
Matt, there's $32 million with that's included with the
114,
county
I'm sorry,
here.
yes.
Good luck.
What?
There's $32 total million, roughly.
For the county to take
For
care
the
of over the
county
next
to take
decade?
care
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. It's not lost on me.
So we do have, so the Dayton River Road section, I'm gonna call that section 3 of our projects when they came and talked to us about it, which is the 2029 project, the first one. That's 100% covered by the county and Three Rivers Park District of that 7.9 million. And then you have 2029 as well, Dayton River Road, that's south of North Diamond Lake Road. That is a, what I want to call it, a rehab project. That's a part that includes Pine View that I mentioned earlier in the meeting, that we'd have them discover, or see if they can make some more turn lanes and make 3 lanes there or whatever, some width widening. Will not be a roundabout there. But that portion and our portion would be covered by Three Rivers Park District as well, because they would like to have a trail all the way along that road. So the county asked if we wanted a trail there. We asked the Rivers Park District if they want a trail. They said yes, they'll pay for the whole thing, so there's no
Up to
cost to
Pine
us
View, you're
either
saying?
for that. That is all the way from, would be our border, Donnie Galloway Park,
Okay.
all the way to essentially would be Cloquet Overlook Park would be done in 2029.
Okay.
And again, I use 2029 for this section, I'm gonna call segment 2 of their project, which is our border, or South Diamond Lake Road, which is technically in Champlin, to North Diamond Lake Road of Dayton River Road is going to be redone. They don't know if it's gonna be 28 or 29. I'm utilizing 29 because it's not a full reconstruct project, it's only a rehab project.
Do they have enough right of way for a trail?
Yes.
Oh, they do. Okay.
So they've asked if we want a trail along there. Three Rivers Park District said yes. So there will be a road, whether it's 28 or 29, the road will be rehabbed and also a trail added.
All right. Take a mini bike to Dave's house then.
Huh?
Yeah.
So they can ride my mini bike to Dave's house then.
Not quite. You'd have to stop at Elsie Stevens Park, but yeah, you can still. Yeah.
E-bike, yeah.
So those projects, again, those will be Pine View and Dayton Road would be taken care of, or at least adjusted as best we can without our physical dollars. If we decide that we want to put any more money to that, we can, but it's going to be at our expense for the city, for Dayton River Road and Pine View. And then North Diamond Lake Road and Dayton Road will be taken care of in 2029. So those were those 1 and 3.
Is that trail going to be on the north side the whole way?
I think so.
Okay.
It originally talked about a crossing. So
That's what I thought,
But
yeah.
to me, it makes more sense if they're buying all land on the north side to have it be on the north
Yeah.
side.
Well, if they already have the right of way, they must know.
I think it's on the north side of the road.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I said if I know that property there, so.
Yeah.
And then shortly following that road is segment 4 of their project, which is everything north of Vicksburg, which would be to Brock, or anything north of Vicksburg, all the way to with the historic village, and that's where there's going to be a contribution from the city involved. And that is because of the intersection at Brockton Lane and Dayton River Road that needs to be reconstructed there. So,
Is Three Rivers going to put a path along that one too?
we'd love them to cover our 20%. We have not talked to them about that. So, they have not identified a year yet. We are guessing 2030 based on what their
That was the TBD
verbal,
section, right?
yeah, TBD section, but
That was still kind of a roundabout, right? They're not
it'll
gonna-
be a roundabout at Brockton. And
Oh, they are. They
Yeah.
confirmed to be roundabout.
Confirmed again. We are suggesting that they do that. And that
Well, I think that was their thought too, a couple years ago when they looked at it.
It makes. I mean, all three of them. That one makes the most
Those-
sense. One basically almost
Yeah.
there.
Of our top 3, those are our top 3.
Yep.
And those are all be taken care of within the time frame of this project. So.
What is the driver for the, I'm looking at 29 again?
Yep.
The Lawndale intersection realignment.
Realignment, yep. So that was based on the intersection inventory study. There was a suggestion to be able to fix that would be to move the road to the right, further away from where it currently lines up because of the sight line that you see to the right, towards Gooden Park, would be to realign that road for Lawndale. So the realignment would
Give it a
include
curve.
Yes.
Yeah.
Towards the curve, so you actually come into a straight T versus a kind of, what do you want to call it, a sideways.
Yeah.
That's another one where you gotta kind of,
You got to kind of look over
Look,
it,
and
and
then
you
hit
look
the
right
gas.
through your I-beam of your vehicle,
Yep.
basically. It's right down the
Yeah.
line. That 1.5 million would be redoing Lawndale all the way from South Diamond Lake Road, or North Diamond Lake Road to Dayton River Road, and then also realigning it.
It's not just realignment.
It's not just the realignment.
That's one of them things that'll get pushed out until 2035.
The one thing I do like about this is that we have, I think, better numbers than before because
These are
we've had
the-
all these studies done. So this is kind of the culmination of the work we've been doing over the last couple of years to get our payment management better under control from a plan perspective. So
You got it. This is the best pavement management plan we've had since I've been here, easily. And it's only because it's complete with all of the information and accurate numbers. Or at least best numbers we can do today and inflation. Any other funds we want to talk about? I know we talked about the fire station one. I don't know if we want to do that tonight. I'd prefer to do it at a different meeting if we can. We can push it out to wherever we want to. Again, nothing in this plan is set in stone, so we can always move it out, pull it back in, move it out, pull it back in, whatever we want to do. But otherwise, those are the items I wanted to touch on for sure.
I think, I'm not sure what you just asked. I mean,
Any other funds you want
seems
to talk
like-
about in the long-term plan that we discussed that I did not have on the slides?
well,
It should be 401 through 410, which is capital equipment through
Yeah.
capital facilities, which we've discussed at a previous council meeting before.
I thought I seen something there too.
And I believe the only one that's really updated in quotes is we removed the locker remodel in 410 and updated the cost for City Hall.
Yeah, what happened there?
The reason for that is because of the police station that's being added to it as well to make a campus.
So when you did all this, right, is Zach, since you're the person that did this, right?
Yep.
Are you envisioning then, like, a firehouse with a police station and city hall all in one location? Or are you envisioning we need a different location for, like, help me better understand what that looks like? What you've put in here. You have to have something in mind when you put it in here. So whether I agree with it or not, I'd like to at least understand what your vision is. It's
So
in here.
the idea would be to best utilize our dollars by utilizing one facility similar to what Maple Grove, Fridley, Elk River all have. It seems to be that has been the growing trend, is to put all of the services together in one location. The only one that we would not put together would be Public Works, and we would leave that there only because their facility is brand new, no reason to move it. We do need to expand that facility because they are running out of room. It's amazing that they can fit as much crap as they can in there with people moving around and 2 crews doing this and 3 crews doing that. But the idea from staff's perspective would be to have a combined campus, civic campus, similar to other communities around us. And that also gives us the best bang for dollars too. We don't have to buy additional land. We're not spending dollars on same things that could be covered in different areas, so, we don't have to have, 15 bathrooms in one location. We could have, 15 in one location versus 5 here, 10 there, 3 here, and then we end up with more overall. So that is where the costs are coming into play.
Well, so this 10 million, I guess I'd still like to explore why it is that we have to have a new facility.
Which fund are you looking at, just so we don't look at the same?
410.
The capital
facilities.
The 10 million for City Hall. And I know I've heard you say that you think it's too expensive to expand this thing. I have a hard time swallowing that it's gonna.
Sure. Yeah, we can look into getting an architect to design. The only way to expand this building is going to go up.
Yeah.
There's just no way to go. I mean, we can go out and take the parking lot out, but then we're taking out more of the field too, which then means
Yeah, but I mean,
which is fine too.
You're comparing it to $10 million. I
Yeah,
would think
correct.
we could do a
Well,
lot
yeah,
with 10 million.
and I when I put it together the first time with City Hall, I was using a $5 million number.
Yeah.
And that was based on some other costs that I'd heard from Fridley's facility was 4.6 million or something like that, and that has everything in it. So I was like, oh, that seems comfortable. But that was also pre-COVID.
So Fridley paid pre-COVID $5 million for all 3 pieces of
Pretty
that.
sure, yeah.
Okay.
And Fridley is a population of what?
A lot.
Well, it's a population, but it's also, I mean, they got business clubs, 484 runs through, I mean,
Yeah, they do
they've
a
got
lot.
transient activity all day, all night, yeah.
Yeah, they also paid pretty dollar for their land too, because they
Spot
took
where
out our
they're at,
ice
yeah.
arena and that old ice arena that was there,
Yep.
and they made that
Yep.
an entire campus and made it a park. And similar to what we'd like to do here in Dayton is to make it a facility that people can utilize 24/7. And try to get a park and everything else. And I think that's the idea was when we looked at that land on 117th, it would be to be able to do more than just a fire station there. Would be to be able to get a park out of the backside of the area and utilize the entire property for all of Dayton, not just have a nice
Not just
For
staff.
one use.
Yeah, for one use or just staff.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, like I said, I'd like to see why it's going to be 10 million and why it needs to be a new facility. That's all.
Sure.
And we are in agreement that Fire Station 3 is moving out to 2031.
Yeah, that's up to council. It's not staff's perspective.
I certainly don't disagree.
I don't think I agree. Let me phrase this properly. I think it should move out. I don't know if 31 is the right number. I don't know if 30 is the right number. I don't know if 32 is the right number. I don't know what the right
Well,
number
we
is.
picked a number of 28, so I'd be fine picking a number 2031. And like I said,
Yeah. Well, it's going to also have to line up with City Hall and the rest. If we decide we want it all in one
Right.
spot, then it's all going to line up in the same year, right?
It's not gonna matter whether it's 31 or 30 or 32,
No.
because there's 3 or 4 different councils between now and then.
Yep. And I don't disagree with that. My point is, whatever we move that to, we got to line everything up. If we agree the goal is to have everything in one building, then we got to move everything to the same
Yeah.
time slot. Is what I'm getting at more than
Making it more strategic.
yeah.
I'd also need convincing that made sense too, but it might.
Yeah, like I said, it's just like continuity of services. If I need to meet with the fire chief, now I have to drive all the way down to the south end of town to meet with him, to then drive back here.
Oh, I get that you
Zoom.
want.
I can zoom, sure.
I get that. I'm just saying
All 8
one.
minutes.
I'm just saying one facility.
Sure.
I mean, if you got a building here and a building here and a building here, they could still be done.
You
at
mean like
separate-
Champlin setup?
Like a campus
Where you have
kind of
individual
thing. Yeah.
buildings
exactly.
that are
Okay, yeah.
campus.
And-
And I don't think either way is different than
Right.
for city staff.
So I don't think the one's tied to the other, at least not at this point.
I'm okay with 31, and in the context of the discussion we're just having, I mean, we look at this every year.
Yep.
So if we find that, the need is driving it sooner,
Yeah, then it
we'll
pulls-
talk
to
about
be
it
pull it
again in
in.
a year.
Yep.
And maybe we'll know more.
Okay.
Okay. I will move all of those items. The one that I'm not sure on is Public Works. We'll have to try to figure that one out, and we'll talk about that one later.
Yeah, we
And
better talk
and the
about
only
that.
reason I say that is just because of the growing staff and the amount of things that they have there.
And
We
We
have.
can fix that.
Yeah, we can.
Sure, we can. It's a pass.
Quit spending.
I thought, so you had brought this up before. Was this just a huge overhead roof and then some other extensions on the Public Works building, or what was this $2.5 million? I thought you had given us a plan a while ago.
We had that lean-to.
Yeah, like
This
the
is
covered
different than
space
that.
you're talking about?
Yeah, we were talking about having some outdoor storage at one time.
Yeah.
Just to take, to protect our equipment that's
Yeah,
stored
to keep the
outside
sun
all
off
the
of the
time.
sun and water.
It
Is
was
this the
in
same
the
thing?
No.
Okay.
I thought this was part of it, it's not?
No,
No.
no.
Okay.
That was a separate thing, and it was on the original plan, and then it got kicked off of the original plan.
Got kicked off?
Yeah, it would, just for cost effectiveness of the building.
Okay.
So, so it's just for outdoor storage of stuff to keep it out of the weather, like stuff that we put out there,
It's still in the
attachments
plan.
and stuff
So
like
it's
that.
an outdoor storage
It's
for
outdoor storage
equipment?
for equipment. It's in there.
Yeah.
It's $100,000.
20,000,
That's
yeah,
just a
thanks,
lean-to.
sure.
That's a lean-to, yep. And that, again, the $2.5 million would be to expand what's there currently and then add, I think it's tip-up panels and a roof and whatever else. But we'd have what the $2.5 million includes is not just the building portion, it's also extending back the ice or the, what do you call it, the salt
salt
storage,
shed and
pushing
driveways.
everything back, because then you gotta add a driveway in the back further on, you gotta
Sure.
add a road further
Stuff.
back. So
Yep.
the
So
$2.5
you're
million
going-
doesn't just the
You're
building.
going
it's
east.
all
You're
the
gonna
on
building's
ya.
cost.
You're going east then, right?
Yeah.
That's the only way you can go,
Yep.
basically.
You ready to sell?
Say, how do the neighbors feel about it?
Yeah, how do the neighbors feel about that?
I'll be dead before it happens. Anyway.
That's fine.
You missed that meeting.
You're planning on that earlier.
4 years, huh?
Took 40 years to get a new one. Now you want another one in 10? 12?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I did work in Public Works, and it's like, it's tight in that parking lot when you have all the trailers and the people moving back and forth, and you got different crews doing different things, and it is tight in there, and it was interesting, so I can vouch for it.
There's a way to handle it.
Yep. So, but again,
Yeah,
that
I'm
one's
fine moving
separate.
everything out to 31. That's fine.
That one is separate. We'll keep that one if we can in 28, just for planning purposes. But we could also talk about that and discuss that further at length. So I think that's a more.
How are you, though, I mean, one of the drivers for the city hall was, you got a room here.
Staff, yep.
I mean, other than shipping Amy out into the back corner there, do you have a plan for
Have my
more
own
employees?
area now.
We
let's not talk
have, we
about
have
it.
2 open cubicles currently that we revamped from 2 larger cubicles. We remade them
Okay.
into 2 smaller cubicles. We can look at doing more remote work. And
Well,
being some
we could put
sharing
you in a
desks.
different office and get 4 desks back in that office. Easily.
Sure, I don't know
If
where
you
that
got
you're
2
gonna-
cubicles, that's 2 years, 2
Nobody
years
wants
yet
to be
anyway.
back in Zach's
Nobody
office
likes
because
it.
there is no windows
I
and
wish-
everybody is
I know.
miserable when we have to visit him.
I know, but I wish I ever got to pick
For
my
two
desk in
reasons?
the office when I worked in the
Heaven
office. I never once got to pick my desk.
So that
I
is
get
why.
it.
That
I
is why
guess,
we need.
I guess what I'm getting
There's no
at
quality of
is,
life back
is
there.
maybe there's an interim solution to where, we don't need, government buildings always seem to be these bulletproof, I don't mean that, probably poor choice of words, block. I mean, they just seem to be expensive buildings. Can we do something at an extension that anybody else would do, a commercial facility would do, and it's not
Poss-
near?
A building
Give
like
us a
mine.
remote pod, I'll work out in a trailer.
I will
back
say
there.
that typically, the reason why government buildings are built that way and why they're designed that way is because public.
Public money pays for it.
No,
that's
not
why.
public money pays for it. It's
That's
people can get
100%.
frustrated with the city, and that's when things happen. No different than I'll use the New Hope shooting for an example.
I get
and that's
that,
why
but,
they
I
happen.
mean, that's
you don't
what-
get frustrated at a business and walk into a business and shoot the business up.
Well, they could.
You can.
Yeah.
Not always.
I-
You can. I'm not saying you can't, but it typically happens more often at government buildings than it does anywhere else.
I know.
That's why they're built that way.
I think even you and I have talked about this. Even with the space you have, I think that there are different options that other corporations have employed. For example, when I worked at General Mills, they had fuse stations, and they were able to get almost two desks into a space. They had one because they got rid of cubicles and had unassigned seats, and it was just desk space. You walked in, you plugged your stuff in, and everything worked. And they were converting almost everything over to that, right? So almost every space
Yeah,
works
but
that way, and they find efficiencies in them too.
Those people are miserable.
I worked in those spaces, and I had no problem with it. So maybe it's
If we
different.
were paperless, that would be more realistic, but we are not.
Right.
I'm just
Fair.
saying that it
Everything
seems
was shade
like,
on shade.
if we can find
We are doing
we're talking
all the
about a
solutions.
short-term solution,
Yeah.
so.
We are doing all
Yeah,
the solutions
I will
we
tell
can.
you right now that we have about 100 people coming in a day for direct balloting. And I'm not meeting my legal requirements for space.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're not facilitating what we're supposed to be doing legally.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think.
We are
since
working
it's a short-term
and have
solution,
worked on all the interim solutions we possibly can. The idea is to treat public dollars as if they are our own, so we are doing whatever we can, so.
And we did get
But-
numbers on revamping even to like turn the garage into.
I do remember
which
that.
We're usually in
It
the
was like
garage.
3 years
but-
ago or so.
It was
yeah.
like $1.5 million
But it was a
It was a-
ridiculous amount
Yeah.
of money that we didn't feel
I guess
added
what
enough
has
value.
always blown my mind is if you have a commercial entity do something like this, it's nowhere near the dollars.
Yeah, they also
I
don't have to
don't-
publicly bid it either, so they can have their friend do the project for half price.
Well,
I think it's
Love
also
to do
something,
that.
why does a speed limit sign cost so much, right? Like, so it's because it says it's for the
It's 'cause
government,
it's
so they're
government,
gonna
double or
charge
triple
it
the
3
price.
times as much, yeah. I don't disagree, I think if we can find a worthwhile solution, it's definitely worth looking at. I also look at,
I just think you're gonna run out of room here
yeah,
sooner than 2031.
yeah, so that's why I was gonna say, I look at the long term, like if this is not where we plan on having City Hall, this parcel of land being the long term,
You put the money in.
I think about then, is it worth putting the money in to buy, putting a couple $1 million in to buy us a couple years in to move everything? Or does it make more sense just to say, you know what, let's just get to where we need to get to and do it right, and then,
And I think the
Move on.
upgrades here had a significant cost is because we don't have a lot of the ADA compliance that we would have to meet today if we were doing construction
Sure.
in this building.
In this space, yeah. Okay.
Not that we have to mean it
That's
today.
another reason to
There.
expand.
What's that?
If you
More
revamp
ramps.
it, if you open
If
it up,
we expand it, it's going to
Now
cost more money.
everything has to
because
be
we have
ADA.
be
Oh,
ADA
okay.
compliant.
Huge ramp.
if you don't touch
No,
anything.
no, I'm saying not to.
There's a certain percentage of remodeling that triggers ADA requirements.
You got it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I bet adding a second floor would probably hit that.
I guess so.
And you gotta get an elevator.
We do have an elevator shaft already.
Oh,
I was gonna say, this
do.
was set up.
There was
two-story.
one set up. It's never been used in 20.
In this building?
Yep.
Yeah, it was.
Right now.
There
Well-
was supposed to be one in the other building too,
Right now,
but somehow it got lost.
You can go check for.
I think that's substituted
crane?
for a forklift.
Huh?
and basket.
Anything else?
You have what you need?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Zach.
Item Q.
Looks like I'm closing this thing out tonight.
Not quite. Oh yeah, you are.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I'll start, we have another item we have
Yep.
too.
Looking to get approval to award the contract for the irrigation install that was approved to go out to bid in September. We've got the bids back. The bids came in under the engineer's estimate by $42,000. The cheapest bid was for Peterson Companies. I'm looking for approval to award the contract.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
Is that just item Q?
Item Q. Just Q.
Okay. Okay, I got a motion and second. Any discussion on Q? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Carry 5-0.
It disappoints me that this is one of the clearer things that we want to go after, and we still got a part that's useless, in my opinion. So, anyway, I guess you gotta start
Just gotta
somewhere.
get, we're getting there, Scott. It's getting there. Slower than we all
I'll be dead
want.
before it's finished.
He's been saying that a lot lately.
I know.
You want to bet $1?
You see your doctor
You know
recently?
something
Is there
we
some
know?
news you want to
Just
tell us,
today.
Scott?
Okay. Item R.
Again, this is part of the same project. This is for the power and well installation. The bids came in under estimate, with Renner being the low bid at $177,100. It's about $9,000 under bid. So I'm looking for
I
approval.
have just one question here, Marty.
Just once.
What's that?
Nothing. Didn't say anything. Go ahead.
You and I talked. There was supposed to be a gentleman that was going to call you. I found out today that he didn't call you,
Yeah.
so he's basically out of the picture. And the only reason I wanted him to call you is I have an issue with this Renner outfit. And we don't have the option to wait another week or anything, do we?
Well, according to the bidding documents, no.
No.
the award is
But
today.
can't we
So we're
deny
stuck.
this bid and just go out to rebid?
We can do that?
But I don't know how long that holds him up. I mean, I don't, is this something you're doing yet this fall?
Yeah, I'm trying to get this in this fall,
Oh.
that's why I want to get it done. If we can get the well drilled in the winter, that's a good thing.
No, I was told this morning that he was gonna call you today, but apparently that,
No, I haven't heard anything from him.
yeah. So,
So
I don't-
I'm
to me, I don't care if we go ahead and go with it.
disappointed in how this came in also because of previous experience with Renner. And the other bidder, I'd say, based on their numbers, wasn't particularly interested in the work.
No.
Yeah.
At least that, if you look at their bid, there's a lot
Yeah.
of just
Yeah.
round numbers that, so obviously, I think that the bid, the low bid is within the range of the architect's estimate, so, I don't think that's unfair. I just feel like we better put $50,000 or $100,000 into contingency because we're working with these guys again, who have told us very clearly they're responsible for nothing.
Yeah.
Can we put it in the contract that they're responsible for X, Y, and Z to help cover us on that?
That this is the bid. There are no change orders. Either you do it for this number or you don't do it.
Yeah, no change, yeah.
So it's-
We would have
It's
it
always
like that.
difficult with well drillers and stuff because everything is underground is unknown. So I don't know how we can.
It's the same old argument. To me, you're paying for their expertise.
Yeah.
And where was it?
Yeah.
So, I think we're kind of stuck, but
Do we have the option to wait 2 more weeks or not?
we would have to rebid.
So yes,
We would have to
Rebid.
totally rebid the thing.
Okay, all right.
Is there a time length we have to leave the new bids open for?
I think. Well, do you know? I thought it was 30 days.
I don't know. I don't think it's. I think it's 2 weeks.
It could be. That's why I wasn't sure.
I think it's
I know at one time we actually.
14 days is how long the bid has to go out for.
The
We have to
poss,
publish it for 10 days
We have
prior, before going out for bid.
the possible downside is Renner could come back and still be the lowest bid and be at 249,999, and then we're
Yeah.
stuck taking that, so it's a bit of a
Given
gamble.
that he's seen this one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would do if I was them.
Yeah,
I,
I think we should
I think
just,
it's unfortunate that this is how it came out, because this is a company that we've not had good experience with.
maybe we'll get lucky and they'll change our experience mind.
Well, that's what it's gonna be, is lucky.
Yeah.
say it does,
I would- you chose my words carefully.
Yeah,
does
if
give,
we agree, we're giving them a second chance.
give it another chance to,
And there is no agreement that you can have, this is your number, right?
We can write in the contract.
I would add that verbiage to it.
but then they're gonna insure it and that's gonna be,
Well, then you have the option to talk about it again.
Yeah. So if they don't sign the contract, then we'd have to go out for a rebid.
I mean, we've gone through this stuff with these guys, they're gonna build insurance in if we require them to hit their number. And that may be a good thing, a bad thing, I don't know. But, they're, if we had that.
I personally would feel more comfortable just taking the 186, although I guess we don't know that they're gonna jerk it around.
That's not an actual bid.
That's just their
That's the architect's
Oh,
estimate. So it's
okay.
177 or 250.
I
we
wasn't,
can't,
I just
Yeah,
wasn't paying attention to
No
that
worries.
part.
I put that in there to show you where the bids are at.
Architect Dave, yeah. All right, whatever you
I wasn't
whatever you guys
here,
wanna
so,
do.
If you guys think we should, I'll follow suit, but I wasn't here when that happened, so I look to y'all for the guidance on this.
I don't know that we've got a good option here.
I'm okay with it, only because I think we're kind of up against the wall, so. And, if he's gonna screw one up, probably be better if he screws this one up than a $5 million.
Yes.
I don't know. And you know what, I mean, maybe, if we're picking out an instance that's an unfair example, it just seemed like the attitude was lacking too, so, but, yeah. Oh,
All right, I'll get it over. Make a motion to approve.
okay, need a second.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
No.
Oh,
Oh, God, Dave, why didn't you?
wow, I preempted
You could have told me.
It's symbolic.
Okay, 4-1. On to item S.
Oh,
Good night.
Off to item and have a good night.
Okay.
We made 10 o'clock
Item S,
anyway.
yeah.
What was
Item
the
S.
estimate?
Mayor, members of council, item S was added tonight.
Oh,
Related
that's
to
right.
the well rehab approval. I believe Marty was able to get 2 quotes. Do you have those 2 quotes for us? I don't remember the dollar amounts off the top of my head. They're in here.
2 quotes, I've got the spreadsheet here. The 2 quotes were Renner were 125,800 and Trout were 96,030.
So we are requesting approval of rehab of the well number 4, which can be done in November, which is why it's added tonight. Otherwise, we couldn't get on their schedule for the 96,000.
That was just minor.
96,000.
That's with Trout.
Trout, thank you.
Trout well.
Oh, Trout.
Trout had low.
Trout had the low bid. They did the original well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I think I remember them being on.
Yeah. And they have got availability in November to do the job. It's a 2-month job. We want to try and get it done before the worst of the weather hits in the winter. If it gets to 10 degrees, then it makes it really difficult for them to do the work.
It's a 2-month job.
Yeah.
And when are we supposed to have the pump back?
The pump is going to be ready in a couple of weeks here.
So are we gonna wait to put the pump in?
Yeah, that's the idea because now...
I just want to make sure we're all on the same page and no steps are missed, that's all.
So we're currently pumping around 500,000 gallons a day, which is well within the capacity of well 2. I don't think that that's going to be an issue.
Yeah, it's gonna go
So
down.
we should be able to maintain on that for the next couple of months and then install the pump and get that all set up at the same time as after clearing the well. So I didn't want to really put the pump back in and risk damaging it and then taking it out again and having those additional costs of taking it out again and putting it back in. So
And this was to expand
second.
expand the area or to pull the sand out?
No,
Clean it
what's
out.
happened is 100 feet of material that's dropped in the bottom of the well, which is probably sloughed off from the top when we put it in production, and it looks like it's sand. So we're going to just what they do is they pressurize the well to look for any more fissures and cracks, and then once that's done, they will suck it out. They'll put basically a big vacuum down the bottom of the hole, pull all the sand out, separate that out, and then we'll do some more water samplings, and then we will test the well for the water quality. So they will run it up to 1,500 gallons a minute, and the water would have to be clear.
Yeah.
They put it in a glass jar and they see how much sand is in there at that time.
And do you guys have a way to measure that sand flow? I mean, to know how much sand is in there?
They've estimated there's 150 yards of material at the bottom of the well.
What I mean is you could, at some point this sand started coming up,
Yeah.
right? So that ate up the pump. Do we have any mechanism at all that checks the clarity of the water, that checks for sand or that
The only
filters it
check-
out? Yeah,
the
is there
only-
a sand filter or?
There's a sand
Sand
separator in the well house itself. And so once a week we will empty the sand separator and visually
Check,
see how
yeah.
much sand there is coming up.
Did you guys see a spike in that or?
Second?
Did you see a spike in that before the failure?
We saw a spike at the start and then we ramped down the startup on the pump, which then alleviated that problem.
Oh.
But then, recently we emptied the sand separator. There was a small amount of sand in there, but we saw all this metal material coming out of there. And so we figured out that there's something going on down there. And we caught it earlier than we did on the previous version of this.
These are DC pumps. They're scrolling type, but they're not pumps that are either on or off, right? That you can adjust the speed.
You can adjust the speed through the VFD.
Yeah.
And is there a recommendation that in my understanding is we used to just full on and full off, and that duty cycle would cause perturbations to the water. Is that?
So we set a ramp up for it. So you can go over 9 minutes as a ramp up on it.
But is it pretty likely to be a fix for this, or at least
I think that pulling the sand out of the bottom and pressurizing the well again is going to make it more stable. I think that we will look at elevating the ramp up time as well as a secondary precaution on this.
So
Does the VFD chase the demand at all?
No,
or is it
because-
more stepped than that?
we don't run off pressure, we run off of height in the water tower, because if you, generally, you would only run off pressure if you were taking a water tower out of the scenario,
Yes.
because then your water is sitting in the water tower all year and not getting circulated. So we run off of pressure, off elevation. So it will get to 35 feet and it will call for the well, and the well will switch on. We'll fill it to 39 feet and then it will switch off. It will ramp down. It won't be just a hard shut off. So the VFD steps in there. If we were to take the water tower offline, then we could run it as on
To
the pressure.
maintain pressure,
But
yeah.
it's not the preferred way of doing it. There's a lot of issues with running it that way. You can have some backflow if you have a big pressure drop. You can backflow the material down into the well, which you don't want to do. And the chlorine and chemical feed is based on the speed of the motor. So if that fluctuates, you don't get that consistency with what you're feeding as chemical as well.
Can I ask maybe a stupid question, which is the sand trap? When you say you're visually looking at it, is it like, oh, today there's this much and tomorrow there's that much? Or like, is like, how much of a...
So
my question is, do we need to buy a $15 scale and every week just have you guys log, here's the weight of the sand that
We
was
could
in
do
there?
that.
So that way you can say, oh my goodness, visually we might not have seen it, but we're like twice what we were a week ago. It might be time to look at this and see if something's going on versus waiting until... maybe it's not that simple. This is why I said this could be a stupid question. I don't know the answer.
I don't think it's a stupid question. I think I could give you a stupid answer. What we're currently doing is we're just piling the stuff up and looking at it visually and taking an eyeball off it and saying, yeah, that's a big pile this week. It wasn't that big last week. It's not an exact science.
Yeah.
But maybe the scale would be a way of going forward with that.
Or at least some level in the, just have a cheat sheet there that says
Yeah.
Monday is blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, we could do something.
And you know what, I don't know but it seems like, this sand really didn't do us any good.
No.
Yeah, so
Second-
our
second
mayor and
pump,
council
right?
wanted to make sure
It's the
that
second
you are
pump.
aware that, yes, this is to try to, our best fix for this well.
Yep.
If this is going to continue to be a problem,
We may
You're gonna buy pumps.
We may have a bigger problem on our hands
Yes.
with what we're doing in the future, so I don't wanna say that this is the cure-all fix, let's hope it is, and knock on wood and saying that it is, but.
Yeah, you
I
gotta
would
root
get
cause
from
and
the
find some of
analysis
this.
from the
Feel free to
engineer.
have the city council help you design the fix.
Right.
I will. I'll make sure that happens.
David, I would assume you want to make this motion, though?
I'll make the motion, sure.
I'll second.
For trout, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. That carries 5-0.
Thank you.
If there are no objections, we'll be adjourned.
Let's go home for dinner.
I wish it looked like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Hey, Marty.
Thank you very much.
Pump itself.